think.
Scream queens, bad dreams. This must be without your help. The station of decapitation.
We're live here at the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Jeremiah Kipp, director of the Mortuary Assistant, coming to theaters this Friday, the 13th. Is it this
Perfect
Friday?
day.
Great.
Perfect day. Yeah, Friday
Yeah,
the
perfect.
13th. Perfect day for a spooky movie, followed by Valentine's Day. Bring your Valentine to the Mortuary Assistant, where they'll eat your heart.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of it. You got the double whammy there.
I think
So
it's
pe-
delightful. It's good timing. You know,
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs came out on Valentine's Day back in, I think, 1992 or whatever it was.
Really?
And that's a perfectly romantic movie for you.
Yeah, 100%. So I mentioned this on the show now since you mentioned the movie. I was always allowed to see R-rated movies since I was a kid, and my mom actually wrote me a note that it would be okay if I went to see that with my friends, and
Amazing.
I didn't have to use it. That no one ever carded me, but I always remember I had the note in my wallet and I kept it in there for a long time.
You know, when I was a little kid, I grew up with my grandparents, and they were very lenient about me watching horror films. So they would drop me off at the movie theater and tell the person collecting
Right.
the tickets, it's like, it's okay for him to go into this R-rated movie. And I would see things like Friday the 13th Part 4, which honestly, we just had the Super Bowl, and Friday the 13th Part 4 with an audience of like loud teenagers is like better than any Super Bowl I've ever been to. It was absolutely crazy. It's the dream experience of a slasher movie where people are screaming at the screen, "Get the hell out of there. What are you doing, you idiot? Pick up the knife." You know, it was a total joy.
Yeah, I go to the movies all the time because I like to watch movies however you can, but in an audience, not just a big screen, but with like fellow horror fans is the best way. And horror movies are fun to watch with people for that reason. Like
That's
if
right.
you're yelling at the screen for another movie, like you'd be an ass. But if you're in a horror movie, especially like a slasher, it adds to the whole thing, I think.
Oh, I feel that. I feel very much that way. And being a child of the 80s, it was always a delight to be in the movie theater. And, you know, like that was like the slasher heyday. So Nightmare on Elm Street, people were just waiting for the next big surreal special effect, like the Roach Motel and, you know, all
Yeah.
this crazy stuff that happens in those films. It was pretty rock and roll.
Yeah. So for people not aware, can you give them an idea what the Mortuary Assistant is about?
Absolutely. It's a feature film based on the video game of the same name, and it follows a young mortician named Rebecca Owens, and she's working the night shift at Riverfield's mortuary, which is already creepy, mind you. You know, it's like just to be in a room with a dead body just pushes against some of the taboos of our culture. We just don't want to look at what happens to us after we die, much less have incisions made in us and tubes stuck into us and blood pumped out and embalming fluid pumped in. But that is actually not even the ultimate threat of the Mortuary Assistant. Once the audience has gotten over the fact that we're in a world where we're taking care of dead people, that's when the real terror ignites, and we realize that Riverfield's mortuary is a home for specters and spirits that bind themselves to Rebecca Owens. And what was so scary about these creatures in the game was that they're always kind of appearing out of the corner of your eye. You know, it's like, it's just, what the hell was that I saw down the hallway? You know, it's that kind of terror. But it keeps getting closer and closer, and their voices get louder and louder. And when they bind themselves to Rebecca, they attach themselves to her in a very personal way. and like any of the stuff that she doesn't want to deal with in her life, because she loves being at work and doesn't want to deal with the messiness of her life or her past or any of it, any of her traumatic stuff. They dredge up all that stuff and use it to attack her in her mind and in her heart. And it gets increasingly addled and weird. Time starts to slip and reality starts to shift and just gets worse and worse on this long, dark night of the soul. And anybody who's played the game knows very well that like survival is not a foregone conclusion in this game. The game is pretty lethal when it comes to destroying characters. So anything could happen at any time in the Mortuary Assistant.
So
I
were
loved
you
it. I loved it.
so were you a fan of the game like before you got involved in the movie? Had you known about it?
When I was approached to direct the movie, I was introduced to the game for the first time. So like it was still a demo, but it had gone viral. It was an extremely popular game, which is why Epic Pictures Group and Shudder wanted to make the movie. They thought of me because I'd worked with both of those companies on Slapface. Epic Pictures Group was the sales agent for Slapface, and they did a brilliant job selling it all around the world. And Shudder was the distributor in English-speaking territories. And Shudder and Epic got together and decided they wanted to make a film of this game. And I was one of the directors that they approached. And and when Patrick Ewald from Epic approached me, he said, "How would you like to adapt a video game?" And my response to that was nothing, because I was just like, a video game. I mean, I was like, what does that mean? And my mind immediately went to all the video game adaptations that I don't like. I thought of Super Mario Brothers, the OG bad video game to film adaptation.
Yeah, I honestly have that in my notes because I'm 49, so I grew up with like terrible video game movies where
it's like
pretty much none of them were good up until modern day, really.
Yeah, I mean, like these games were super cool. Like like Street Fighter is a super cool game,
right?
And it was a super awful movie because
they
just didn't know what to do with them. Super Mario Brothers, like that movie, they're so not understanding what that game is. They're like, hey, what if we set it in the world of Blade Runner? And it makes absolutely no sense. I think that has changed. I think, but like I said, those are the first things my mind went to. Kind of like you, I was like, oh, Doom. Doom was a really great first-person shooter where they start to put the Rock in it, and they're trying to impose all these characters and plot elements in it that are not part of the game, and it's like the tricky thing with a certain kind of video game adaptation where they're trying to impose something onto the game and it doesn't work. So those were my initial fears, and then they said, well, here's the game, and they presented me Mortuary Assistant, and I played it, and it was like really like instantaneous thought speed. I played the game and I was like, oh yeah, I don't want to make a video game into a movie. I want to make this video game into a movie. I felt it right away. I immediately loved the total atmosphere of the game. I loved the characters. I immediately fell in love with Rebecca Owens and with Raymond Delver and with the Mimic, which is the creature, and Valerie, the woman in the basement. They all spoke to me. I was like, oh, I just like them, and I like this mortuary. I like the total environment. I love that the mortuary is as much a character in the story as the Overlook Hotel in The Shining or something. And more than that, as I was playing it, I was like, I also feel like I get Rebecca Owens. Like I'm a real bona fide like personal filmmaker kind of guy. Like Slapface was about like my childhood, and when I was looking at this one, I was like, oh, like when I was in my mid-20s, I really relate to the feeling of just wanting to be on a movie set because I don't want to deal with any of my personal life. And my apartment looked like a hotel room, not unlike Rebecca Owens in the game. And I was like, oh, I feel like I have a way into the story, a personal way into the story, because I feel like I get Rebecca. And from speaking to Epic and Shudder and Brian Clark, who was the game developer and the creator of the game, I expressed my enthusiasm for characters and world and the wonderful way that it builds an atmosphere of dread and anticipation of horror. Then leaping out and frightening you with a really interesting gallery, a rogues gallery of demons and monsters. But more than that, you know, on the deeper level, I was like, and I feel like there's a way in for me, Jeremiah,
Yeah.
where I'm sympathetic to this character and I feel like I understand her. And Brian liked that a lot because the game was very personal to him, and he knew that it wasn't going to be a, you know, work for hire assignment director, you know, who's like, yeah, I'll do your movie, kid, you know, whatever.
Right.
It was more like I really, you know, I wanted that job, you know, like I really wanted to do the film so much. And it was in development for a while. Like I was attached to it back in like, I think 2023. And, you know, and then the script was being developed, and I think they cracked the code of it when they hired Tracy Beebe from Austin, Texas. She had presented Epic a work for hire or a spec script, a shark movie of all things, you know.
Oh, really?
And they thought that it was like really scary, but then they also liked the characters and the story arcs and so on. And so Tracy was really fantastic, also because it was like a room full of dudes, you know, and Tracy empathized with and understood Rebecca Owens and was able to build a very strong story arc for that character. And anything in the game that didn't support Rebecca's story would fall by the wayside. So like people who've played the game know that there's a really remarkable and scary ending with Raymond that I won't reveal for people who are yet to play the game, but like it was one of those scenes where like, oh, this is an amazing scene. And it was like, yeah, but it doesn't really support Rebecca's story, so we're leaving it out. And I did make a blood oath with Brian Clark. I said, if we ever get to do another one of these, then we got to put that scene in there. I love it so much. But I understood Tracy's point. You know, it's like anything that doesn't support Rebecca's story falls by the wayside. We're pinning the whole movie on Rebecca Owens.
It's, you know, like if you're doing like a novel, you can't keep every single character's story sometimes if it's like 1,000-page, you know, novel, or else you make unless you're making a 1,000-hour movie or a mini series
or series. Yeah. And
yeah.
You know, I think that The Last of Us merited a series because that game is like 10 hours long or 20 hours long or something like that. You know, and when you played that game, you were like, oh, this is an HBO series. And that game was really important actually, because that was a game that allowed access into, oh, I see how this could be made into a series because it's about characters and it's a narrative story and you're emotionally involved in the lives of this, you know, this person and this kid who are traveling across the country, and the people that they meet are really interesting. It's not just a good bit of world building. It's like you're invested in their story and their adventure. And the Mortuary Assistant is not a 10-hour game, you know, like many indie horror games. You can play it through in, you know, like an hour and change, you know, or 2 hours or something like that. So making a, you know, and we never wanted to do a very long movie. I know you hate Iron Lung, you know, and I think I like it more than you do. But,
all right. I do. I think my post probably made it seem like I hated it more than I did. I can't say I was a fan, but
yeah, I'm not trying to bring a bunch of haters down.
No, but I definitely
really respect your opinion.
I did keep watching it. I didn't feel like I should leave the theater, which I have on other movies, but
yeah.
But I thought, it is definitely. I think even people like would probably agree it's definitely too long.
When I went to see Iron Lung, I thought the same thing. I was like, you know, because I really like that game. But that game is
I never played the game.
That game is a 1 hour playthrough, and it's a 2 hour and 7 minute movie.
Oh wow, interesting.
And I was like, if this movie is not for me, I'm gonna get up and leave. You know, even though I like the game and Markiplier really seemed personally invested in it. But I watched the film and I was like, oh, I think this movie was made with real passion. And
I would agree with that. Yeah.
You know, and like it or not, you know, it's like one of those movies where, you know, you can tell that Markiplier was deeply invested in the thing. And, you know, I think it depends on audience member to audience member, your level of tolerance for him looking at maps and stuff like that.
Right.
But I did think that he, you know, he didn't do a 10-hour Iron Lung movie. I mean, it's arguably still too long. I mean, I personally think it could have been a 90-minute movie, but like, but at 2 hours and 7 minutes, I still thought that like he executed the thing really well and in a powerful way. Hey, it's a special guest.
Wow. I haven't been able to watch that much of the movie, but what I've seen is awesome, man.
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate it. Guys, this is Bill Whedon. You guys
Yeah,
know
Bill
who this
Whedon.
man is.
That's
Yeah.
me.
Trauma actor extraordinaire.
And I'm eating some chocolate now, so it's all over my mouth.
I mean,
Yeah, trauma
The horror
actor.
is
He's in
real.
this movie, the once and future smash that I have here at all
Oh my-
times, and
Oh
my
my God!
I was my co-star, and then he's the star. I'm the co-star of
Yeah,
a movie together. So yeah, we love Bill Whedon.
we love Bill Whedon.
And I love all of you, both of you. Actually, it's just two of you there. But I
Thank
do. I mean, I've been directed by Jeremiah twice, and both.
No,
see.
more than that. We did the thing with Chris Sarandon, and then we
Yeah,
did.
well, that was one of them, and the other one was the music video that Dolores and I did for Aaron's.
That's right. You were his parents. That's
Right,
right.
we was parents.
That's right. We did a couple projects together. I enjoyed every minute of it. You know, when Bill Whedon shows up on set, it's an event.
Thank you, sir. Wow, that's wild.
My pleasure. Yeah.
So, this new movie is a big deal, right?
I mean, so it would seem. I mean, it's based on a video game that went viral and has a
Plus, I don't
lot
do
of.
video games, so I didn't know that, but I read that.
Yeah.
What's the video game? What is? How do they
Same
do
on
it?
Mortuary Assistant.
Yeah, the Mortuary Assistant. It's set in a mortuary, and you're embalming dead bodies, which is already pretty fascinating.
Right.
And then on top of that, if that were not grotesque enough, there are spirits inside the mortuary that bind themselves to you and are getting in your mind and like destroying you from the inside out.
And that's what the movie's about, right?
Oh, it's a straight up horror movie. Straight up horror movie. Scary from the inside out.
We were talking, Bill, like at the beginning, like because I had this in my notes. I was glad Jeremiah brought it up. Is I grew up with like usually video game movies were not good, and lately like that's changed, I think, and I think a lot of it is because video games themselves have changed. It's hard to make a narrative off, like, as much as I love Super Mario Brothers, like how do you really make a narrative off these kind of games unless you just create something, you know, that's not necessarily in the game. But games today have like rich stories and rich characters.
Great stories and rich characters.
So you can actually, you know, they lend themselves to make a narrative version.
The most I've ever done with video games was way back in the dark ages. I played Pac-Man.
Pong, Pac-Man.
Yeah. Well, that's Jeremiah's next movie, Pong the movie.
Pong the movie, like. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is a case in point, you know, where it's like not all video games should be made into movies,
right?
So
right.
you know, and you know, I mean, for years they've been trying to make a movie out of Monopoly, which is also a super dumb idea.
yeah. After Barbie was a success, and like everything popped up, was like they're gonna make, you know, they're gonna make like this whole universe of all the whatever Milton Bradley, whatever games. I'm like,
they'll make a universe.
They don't all lend themselves into this.
IP, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Barbie, I thought was good. You know, I
was a big fan of
really
Barbie.
Smart director, really talented and smart.
Yeah, but I
director.
don't think you could do that with just any, you know, any game or any toy. Like,
no,
you know.
Yeah, she had a really strong point of view, and I think that made all the difference between it being like some, you know, money grubbing, you know, hack work, and you know, something that's very inspired and really well made.
Had a point of view. You mean Greta Gerwig, right?
Greta Gerwig, really talented and smart.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was actually a good movie.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was not only fun. It's like, you know, it was about something. Yeah, I thought it was great all around.
Did you guys do the Barbie and Oppenheimer double bill?
I did. I actually have pictures. I'm all in pink, and I wore. Yeah, we went.
Tell you, my least favorite director in the galaxy is Christopher Nolan. So
really, you hate Christopher Nolan?
Yeah.
Why do you despise Christopher Nolan so much?
Inception and
Interstellar,
two of my bottom 5 movies. I just really hate them. And Dunkirk is very close to the bottom. I can't stand it. The only Christopher Nolan, I haven't really seen the Batman movies that much. The only one that I like at all is Memento, which is pretty good.
Oh, Memento is his best film easily. Yeah.
Definitely.
Love that movie.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Oppenheimer too. I really liked it.
I don't like his work, and I got through 20 minutes of Oppenheimer, but that's more than I got through of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I couldn't even make.
Another one I'm a big fan of, but yeah.
You like that?
I loved it. Yeah.
What do you like, Bill? Bill, what's a movie that you're like, that's a good movie? It's recent, not an old one.
A recent one.
A recent one, yeah.
Yeah, recent.
that you're not in.
Besides the Mortuary Assistant, which of course.
Well, of course, I love that one. But I did see one recently. I can't remember. I saw a couple recently that I really liked.
But you can't remember it. You're so consumed with hatred, you don't need a sweater. Who needs a sweater when you've got hate?
That's me. You know me. Hatred is written all over my face. I didn't like Roofman very much, which I was expecting to like. I didn't like it that way. Did you see it?
No,
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I was expecting to love that, but I didn't. What did I love? I'd have to look through my Facebook postings to see which ones. There were a couple that I really liked that came out this year.
You know what? You know what's really good, and I think they've been on your show, Neil. Is the Addams Family?
Yeah, I love their
Mother of
movies.
Flies. Did you see Mother of Flies?
Yeah, that was on my top list. It probably should be this year, I guess, but I had it on my favorite movies of last year because I saw it, last year at the festivals, which is always a little weird. But either way, yeah, I love Toby. They've been on the show ever since I don't know.
Deeper You Dig.
Yeah, that was the first movie I had them on, and then ever since then they come on for all their movies. Yeah, I think those guys. I love the whole story. So if you don't know, Bill, they make movies together. It's a married couple, and they make them with their daughters, and I love that. And their movies are really well made.
Who are they? What are their names?
The Addams Family. So it's Toby Poser and John Adams.
Oh, I thought you meant the Addams Family.
No, they do play with that,
Yeah.
So Neil, I'll tell you a John Adams story because he was.
By the way, if people don't know, John Adams is in the Mortuary Assistant.
Yeah, he plays Rebecca's dad. And if Tom Hanks is America's dad, then John Adams clearly is horror's dad. Because we love him so much. So when we got the script and it was like, who's going to play Rebecca's dad, I immediately thought of John Adams and I called him up because we knew each other from Slapface and Hellbender had come out at the same time on Shudder, and ever since we were friends. I was like, John, would you consider being in our movie? I'll send you the script. And he's like, before you send me the script, tell me about this guy. Tell me, because I don't want to play him if he's not in my wheelhouse. And I'm like, well, John, it's two things. He's a loving dad who is trying to do his best for his kid who's having a lot of problems. And he's like, yep, I know who that guy is. That's me. And then I'm like, all right. And then the other thing that you have to do, John, is play the demon version of that dad who is the distorted version that imagine the part of you that is insanely angry at your children and only speaking a language of hatred to them to hurt them. A punk rock demon, rock and roll guy. And he's like, yeah, I know who that guy is too. Like, send me the script, I'll do it. And then he hopped in his truck and drove out to Missouri where we shot the movie, Missouri doubling for New England. And we had a great time. And the other John Adams story that I'll tell is like, he was so great to work with when he was playing scary. He intimidated the crew in a wonderful way. He's a beautiful guy who can turn on the scary in ways that are surprising and eccentric and original. But then we got to a scene where he's playing the loving dad. It's a scene with Willa Holland, who's playing his daughter. And, John pulled me aside and he's like, I don't normally get nervous doing scenes, but this one I feel kind of vulnerable. And I'm like, well, John, why don't we do this? For the first take, you can play it to Rebecca Owens as if you're talking to Zelda, one of his daughters. And then the second take, you can play it as if you're talking to Lulu, who's his other daughter. And John goes, that's great. I can totally do that. Just know it's going to be two different performances because one of them is like string and steel. And the other one is as if she's made out of paper and feathers. And I didn't ask which was which,
Yeah.
And so he did the two takes. And in the movie, most of the scene is performed to Zelda. And then the button on the scene is performed to Lulu. But it personalized the performance for John. And it's the thing that I think the Addams Family are so good at when they're making their horror movies is they always feel so personal and so resonant. They kind of
their last one's very personal to them as both are cancer survivors. And
so John,
that might have been my favorite movie. I really like all their movies, honestly, but that one might have been my favorite. I really liked it a lot.
It's really great. Yeah, Bill, Mother of Flies, Bill, you would love it.
Mother of
Or
Yeah,
maybe
and they
you hate
actually
it.
they're
Maybe
from
you put it on your pile of films that you hate. You
yeah,
know?
thought of a movie. I
and
thought-
they're up near you, I believe. They're up in the Catskills.
I thought
Yeah,
of-
we're like
was-
probably 45 minutes away from each other. We've met a couple times.
I
It's,
thought of
it's always
two
really
movies
great to
that
see
I
them.
really liked. One is Weapons. Have you seen Weapons?
Oh,
Weapons is really good.
I'm one of the few people who's not a huge fan of Weapons. But
Didn't like it, right? Okay.
Oh,
I
thought
didn't
it was
hate
really
it, but I'm
good.
not a huge fan.
I
I think I probably should have went in without all the hype, because then
Well,
I
an interesting video
think
game
that,
connection is the director of Weapons is doing the next Resident Evil movie.
Mm.
And it's like, I mean, part of me is like, do we need another Resident Evil movie? But then at the end of Weapons, when the shit is hitting the fan and it gets super crazy, and
that's
people are
probably my
jumping out
favorite
of
part
windows
of,
and
of
stuff,
it. Yeah,
I was like, oh, he could make the best Resident Evil movie ever. So I am looking forward to his video game adaptation later this year. Zach Cregers is doing Resident Evil, the director of Weapons.
And there's a movie called Blue Moon that I liked a lot. Have you seen Blue
Oh,
Moon?
Blue Moon. I haven't yet, but I hear that I don't like Ethan Hawke very much, but I hear he's great in it.
I do like Ethan Hawke, and I think this is the best thing he's done. So,
Yeah. Wasn't he nominated for an Oscar for it? I mean, I hear he's phenomenal in it.
he's nominated for the Oscar, but I think the received wisdom has that Timothy Chalamet is going to win that.
I mean, what was that? Marty Supreme? I haven't seen that one either.
I
but
haven't seen that
do
one
like
either.
the Brothers movies.
I think Timothy Chalamet is a little overrated, but whatever, He's
Yeah,
good.
but I think in that, I mean, like the Safdie brothers, they've pulled some pretty interesting performances out of
Right.
actors that you wouldn't expect. Like Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems is really scary.
yeah, that's his best stuff.
And then Robert Pattinson in the other one.
I love Uncut Gems. Do you like Uncut Gems?
I love Uncut Gems. I
Love
thought
I
it
love
was
it too.
so.
and I'm not really a fan of his, but yeah, I loved Uncut Gems.
I'm
My favorite Adam Sandler movie easily. Yeah.
I'm
That and Punch Drunk Love.
I used to when Adam Sandler came on the scene, I fucking hated.
I'm actually with you, Bill. I don't find him funny at all, but I like him in serious roles. I think he's going to punch Drunk Love too.
Exactly.
We should change the title of this show from without your head to like what Bill hates.
Adam Sandler is anti Tom Hanks. I'll tell you what I mean. Adam Sandler's comedy sucks, but in straight roles, he's awesome. He's great.
Yeah, I agree.
Tom Hanks started out as this great comic actor, and then he became a serious actor, but in my opinion, a mediocre serious actor.
I don't agree.
Bill,
with
if
that
you were
one.
walking down the street and you ran into Tom Hanks, you would
Who
punch
was
him in
it?
the
What
face.
do I
You're saying?
You'd be like, you're a
Are you
really
saying you
mediocre
punch America's dad in the face?
actor.
No, it's that's me. I just
Yeah, I got you.
his Forrest Gump. I saw Martin Short do a takeoff on Forrest Gump, which was way better than Tom Hanks's Forrest Gump, in my opinion.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, I think Forrest Gump is a vastly overrated movie, but
I-
but I mean, what did Tom Hanks do to you, Bill? Did you guys like have some bad blood back in the day? Does he owe you money or something? He can afford it.
I hear he's a great guy. I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is, and I love his comic. He was great in Bosom Buddies and
Bosom
Big,
Buddies.
and he did a guest shot on Family Ties. Do you remember that thing he did?
Yeah, he was the
Oh
alcoholic
yeah,
uncle.
that was really great.
Alcohol.
Yeah, he was the alcoholic. That was
It
pretty
was-
great work.
It was brilliant. It was great, and that was kind of skirted serious acting, but it was funny.
Yeah, it was definitely on the serious side.
And,
of that.
and then he made Philadelphia. It was really serious.
I'm a big fan of
Denzel
Philadelphia.
stole the movie, but that's my opinion.
No,
That's
it's
my
fine.
That's my
I do
favorite
think-
director on Philadelphia is Jonathan Demme, who passed away sadly. But like we
I
did
know.
an homage to Jonathan Demme in Mortuary Assistant. We have a scene. So we had this scene like midway through the movie with Paul Sparks and Willa Holland where he's giving her some of the rules. And I read it and I was like, oh man, very expository scene. How do we spice it up? And then I was talking to our director of photography, Kevin Duggan, and I was like, what if we Jonathan Demme it? And he's talking right into the lens and she's receiving the information right into the lens. It'll feel like he's talking right to the audience. And then when she's listening, the audience will be listening with her. And then either Kevin or I can't remember who, we were spitballing the idea. And it's like, what if she's still looking into the close-up Jonathan Demme shot and then Paul kind of appears behind her? Then she just is still talking to the lens. And then she turns and we create, this is very nerdy, but we cut to a new Jonathan Demme shot of Paul Sparks and a new Jonathan Demme shot of Willa Holland. And it was like, when we were designing that scene, it was one of those like, do you think they're going to hate it? Do you think the executives will despise the scene because we're nerding out over Jonathan Demme close-ups, and we're doing this almost cubist thing with them. And I was just, we were like, fuck it, let's do it anyway. We won't shoot an alternative. We're just going to shoot it that way. And we did. And even on set, you could tell it was working when we were shooting Paul Sparks in the big close-up. It was like, this is so impactful. And in the edit, we cut it together that way. And yeah, the executives had no notes on that scene. They were just kind of like, yep, print it, whatever. It was awesome. But that was an homage to the great Jonathan Demme, who did such.
I know a woman who was in Jonathan Demme's remake of The Manchurian Candidate, and she happens to be right here and wants to say hello to you.
Hey.
By the way, our newest partner on the show, Tara's watching. She hasn't seen the movie, but you're free to still join us if you would like, Tara. Hello, Dolores. It's good to see you.
Hi guys. Hi, everybody.
So yeah, she was in. She was an extra in The Manchurian Candidate, Demi's remake. You know.
Yeah, I know Tom Hanks wasn't in it.
Denzel was.
That's why you liked it, right?
I loved it. I love Denzel. She was on set, and she. I tell the story. She asked this man, "Where's the ladies' room?" And he told her. She realized too late it was Denzel Washington.
No, that's the way to treat movie stars. Like he pulls his pants up one leg at a time, same as everybody else.
He's embellishing the story. What? I was going to ask him.
Oh, I thought you did ask him.
No, I was going to ask him, and I didn't know who it was.
Well, it's too late, Dolores. We're going to print the legend. John Ford style.
So, what made since you liked Rebecca the character so much when you were playing the video game, what made Willa right for that role?
Well, I wanted to cast a person who I despised as much as possible, like just to appease Bill, who hates everybody. No. I mean, the real reason is we had a brilliant casting director named Allison Estrin, and Willa Holland was on the list, and I knew her work. She was so great in this Beverly Cleary adaptation called Tiger Eyes. And she'd appeared in a movie produced by my slapface producer, Mike Manning, called The Dirty South, which is a really fantastic crime movie. And she's the lead. I thought she was amazing in that. So, Willa rose to the top based on I called up Mike and I was like, what's she like to work with? And he said he loved working with her and that we would bring out the best in each other. And so then we made an offer to Willa, and she and I did a couple of Zooms to make sure that we were on the same page. And the thing I really liked about Willa Holland and thought that she would be appropriate for the part is in The Dirty South, she's doing a thing where it's like, she's not waiting to greet you and hug you as an actor. She's not trying to be loved or liked. She creates a kind of distance between herself and the viewer. And you would think that would make you like her less. But in fact, when I was watching the movie, I kind of leaned forward more. I was more curious about her because of how she's restrained and how she's withholding. And we talked about the character. And one of the things that was really interesting was that, the Rebecca Owens character, her childhood is all messed up by some shit that goes down. And Willa was like, yeah, I started acting in big Hollywood movies when she started acting when she was 6 years old. So she's spending her entire childhood and teenagerhood on a show called The OC, not at school and not meeting other kids and not making other friends, but on sets surrounded by 300 people, mostly dudes wearing baseball caps, pointing lenses at her, and she was like, man, I just never had a chance to have a childhood, and even felt a kind of disconnect from reality to the point where she wasn't even sure if she liked being an actor. But acting is something that she's always been incredibly great at. And reality has been something that she's, really fought very hard to try to protect in her life. And she's like, I think that's the thing that I would want to bring to this character, or those qualities. And I knew for sure that she understood intuitively who Rebecca was. And it was like that from the moment that she set foot on set. She really had a strong take on the character. She was particularly great during the Narcotics Anonymous scene, where it addresses another very human fear, which is public speaking. Rebecca is very shy and she has to stand up in front of a group of Narcotics Anonymous people and, kind of share her experience when she's kind of afraid to and shy to. But I think the courage that I really admire in people is like when they're afraid of something and yet go forward anyway. And in that scene, I thought that she tapped into the thing I loved about the character. Kind of reminds me of how much I love Gary Cooper in High Noon, which is probably a movie, Bill. It's like in High Noon, he's afraid. He's like all these gunmen are coming to town, and he's got to face off against them. He's one guy. Nobody in the town will help him, and he is scared out of his mind. But he goes forward and does it anyway. And I thought Will Holland was able to access those parts of the character in ways that I really liked. So yeah, Will Holland is Gary Cooper. How's that for a?
I like it. Yeah,
I like that. Have you seen High Noon, Neil?
Yeah, actually not since I was probably a kid though. I that would be something I should. I haven't really watched a lot of westerns in like my adulthood. Maybe
I don't like westerns, but I love High Noon. One of my favorite movies, and it's told in real time. It's
really like 24.
It all takes place in an hour and a half. The movie's an hour and 25 minutes. Actually, hour 20.
Yeah, almost like a documentary in real time.
I'm sorry, Jeremiah, what'd you say?
Yeah, almost like a documentary in real time. It has a gritty feel to it.
There's a TV series which we saw and binged, which is told in real time, which is very interesting, called
24?
Hijack. Have you seen Hijack? Oh, well, no. 24 is a different thing, but Hijack with...
No, I haven't seen it.
Idris Elba.
Idris Elba's great. No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's great. And it's told in real time. It's a series, but every episode starts where the other episode left off. So it's all told in real time about a hijacking of an airplane, and it's really good. There's a second season now, which we haven't really. Did we see all the second season, honey, of Hijack?
The what?
Yeah, we did. The second one is about a hijacking on a Berlin train. Did we see that?
We started.
We haven't seen it all.
Yeah, we haven't finished it.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Well, as long as Tom Hanks is in it sounds great.
I liked a lot of stuff that Tom Hanks did. I just like the fact that his career really soared when he started doing work that I didn't think was as good as when he started.
I love Tom Hanks.
Good, I do too, Dolores. So
yeah, we like Tom Hanks was interested in the Mortuary Assistant. We said, "Fuck that, we don't want to."
Bill said, "You're not right for this."
Yeah, why should we cast America's Dad when it'll just piss off Bill Whedon, and then he'll spend all of his time on shows like this just saying how much our movie sucks.
I hope Tom isn't watching this podcast. I doubt
he's a big fan, but yeah. I was interested because like all the autopsy stuff, like, is that stuff that you research to see how like how they do an autopsy? Because that was actually really interesting watching that.
Freaked me out.
Like the wires in the teeth. I wasn't like aware of that.
Yeah, so Brian Clark did a lot of research about mortuary science for the game, and he left some stuff out just in the spirit of like trying to move it along. So it doesn't include every single step of mortuary science, but the steps that are included are accurate. And in the gameplay, you kind of are doing all of it in real time, right? And in the movie, we knew that we wanted to compress the time a little bit. We hired a great special effects artist named Norman Cabrera, who worked on really amazing films like by people like Guillermo del Toro. He studied under Rick Baker, a really great artist. And Norman also, like, you felt like he cracked open some medical books and studied the way that dead people look after they've died, and the way that the blood pools in other parts of their body. So we just decided that in scene one, we were going to put the viewer right up close to the gory effects and say, this is what we're dealing with. This is the movie. So like one of the early shots in the film is Rebecca slicing open this artery right here on the dead body's neck, and then sticking a tube in there and draining the blood out, and then pumping the embalming fluid in. All of which is stuff that mortuary, that people who work in a mortuary do. I spoke to a lot of young
carotid artery. Is that?
That's the one. Yes, you get an A+ in science.
Dolores nailed it.
In biology. Dolores, you get an A+ in biology. So yeah, it was like I spoke to some morticians, and Brian had done his homework, and Norman also like really cared about the way that the dead bodies looked and wanted to make sure they were accurate. So yeah, all of that stuff was studied and informed. And Willa Holland really got into it, at first she was like, ugh, but much like the viewer, you get used to it after a while. It's kind of like Dawn of the Dead. The first time a zombie gets shot in the head, you're like, whoa, it's fucked up. And then like the 10th time, you're like, all right, that's just the world we're living in, is you just got to shoot a zombie in the head. The Mortuary Science was like that in our movie. And by the middle of the shoot, like Willa was like, when I stick the trocar into the stomach, I don't think I would find the cavity right away. I think we'd be digging around in there. That's what I read when, that's what I saw on YouTube or whatever, and I was like, yeah, Willa's into it. Like she's as fascinated by the Mortuary Science as the rest of us were.
So what kind of direction do you give then? So to keep like the more fantasy, like gore, like the monster or just stuff they're doing, do you want that also to look realistic in its own way? Or do you want to set it like a contrast with like the actual like procedural stuff?
Yeah, I think that it was kind of like the frog in boiling water, where we wanted the embalming to feel right on accurate. And then as the movie progresses and gets more supernatural, it just gets weirder. As Rebecca Owens is starting to slip into non-reality, we wanted the creatures to take on, an interesting form, like even the location itself. The mortuary is a character in its own right. And it felt kind of like a liminal space to me, where it's like a little Caligari-esque in its layout, so it's not quite naturalistic. It's not so extreme that it's a cartoon. The performances always feel restrained, and we weren't going for like explosive theatrics in any of it, not in the horror, not in the performance, not in anything. Restraint was a key word, but like within that, the mortuary itself kind of has like a slightly reality plus aspect to it. I think that the monsters who inhabit that space are also slightly reality plus, but it was kind of in the spirit of like Norman Cabrera's like I said, he studied under Rick Baker, and Rick Baker's whole amazing work in like American Werewolf in London or something like that. It's like that whole movie is pretty grounded and real. That when you get to the werewolf that looks kind of unnatural in a great way, you're kind of primed for it. You just kind of accept that the werewolf is just as real as everything else. And I think that we used a similar strategy with our monsters.
A naked American man just stole my balloons.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Bill hates it.
No, you can't hate it. It's still the greatest transformation scene.
No, and done in like very. I thought that the cool thing about that movie is it's not like backlit and they're not hiding the effects. It's like a well lit room. There's no shadows. And like hide the special effects.
American Werewolf in London.
Yeah. It's the genius of that scene. Is like there's nowhere to hide the special effects, and that's why they're so profoundly good.
I love that movie. Is AJ Cutler coming on tonight? Do you know?
No, he'll be on our regular normal Thursday show. But I start popping up whenever. You don't know when we'll go live. So.
Oh, this isn't your normal Thursday show?
No, tonight's Wednesday.
Oh, it's Wednesday. That's right. It is Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, we pop up whenever. There's no rules here, Bill. We can just
no rules, Bill.
Yeah.
That's how Neil rolls.
I would love it.
No law.
I would love it if Jeremiah could meet AJ. They'd be great together.
Some other time.
Yeah. Well, Jeremiah is always welcome on the show anytime. So.
No, I love being on the show. It's always great talking to Neil.
I love you, Bill, and miss you. It's Nolan here in the chat.
Tears. Nolan Tears. You know who he is, right?
Of course. He's been on the show many times.
Has he been really?
Yeah, twice.
Yeah, of course he has been. Yeah. He played the lead in a movie called Special Needs Revolt.
Oh, Special Needs Revolt. Fantastic.
Yeah, I play the President of the United States, Donald J. Kruger. And Nolan
and the shit hits the fan.
Nolan is
Bill Whedon's the president.
With Down syndrome. And he gets the better of me.
A connection to a Mortuary Assistant in American Werewolf in London is like, so you actually are interested in the characters, before stuff starts to happen to them. And I think that's important in it. There are horror movies, like you were saying, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, although I think you probably like the characters in that too, but most of that's like you're looking forward to the cool kills.
Off in the first half hour, they kill off all the Elm Street 3 kids.
Yeah, I always think that's actually why Part 3 is so beloved, because that's the one where you are actually rooting for like the good guys.
You love all those kids.
Yeah, it's not just fun kills in that one.
I haven't seen 3. I should see it.
It's classic.
Yeah, it's I think it's probably the best sequel. Some people, it's just their favorite of the whole franchise.
Yeah, I'm an Elm Street 1
I am
guy.
too.
You know,
Yeah.
I loved. I thought Wes Craven really made something special.
Yeah.
Elm Street
I
3
really
was
like A New Nightmare. I actually think
New
that's the
Nightmare
most
3.
underrated of the sequels.
I know that was like a wonderful meta movie before
Mhm.
Scream.
I saw that.
And I like that it asks like a question of horror fans like myself, like the idea of rooting for the monster, for the killer, for like the bad. And I was like, that's like kind of interesting because it's like forcing the audience to kind of ask themselves like, why do I root for the murderer in this movie?
I know. I thought it was so cool of Wes Craven. He was always such a thoughtful filmmaker. And you know, once Freddy Krueger turned into like a pop star, you know, almost like a beloved talk show host or something like
Yeah.
that, more than a killer. And I loved that Wes Craven was seriously examining that and saying, you know, essentially maybe a little bit of like, what have I done?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and then pulling it back and making Freddy scary again, which I thought was really intelligent. He's a really I mean, like everybody loves Wes Craven, but in some ways he's still kind of underappreciated.
I've never seen Last House on the Left. I'm scared to.
Yeah, it's a rough one. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's like hardcore.
It's weird because watching it as an adult, like I think it's actually a really dark comedy.
Well, it's got that kooky song in it, right?
Yeah,
Neil?
the music in it, especially, like I'm like, is this supposed to be like funny? And it's in a very like wrong way. And then like the police in it are really like portrayed as like real bumpkins and.
The police are definitely comic relief in that movie, and it's a little discordant. You know, you're watching this like extremely graphic horror, you know, and then you cut to these two cops, and they're like, do, you know, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty wild.
That's what Ed Wood thought he was doing in Plan 9 from Outer Space with those cops and that.
Yeah, but I feel the way about Ed Wood that you feel about Tom Hanks.
That's really good on the limb, but the movie.
I feel that way about Ed Wood too. He was great when he was doing comedy.
That's great.
But I'm still not a huge fan of Last House on the Left, but I think I mean people love The Hills Have Eyes, but I think that's like almost underrated because I think that's like a really great movie.
Yeah, Michael Berryman makes such an impact, and he's not even in the movie that much, but when he's there, you know, it's just like, wow, he's such a strong presence. And then Dee Wallace is great in it too. It's that movie's got a lot going for it.
Yeah,
you know that Last House on the Left is an adaptation of Ingmar Bergman's The Virgin Spring, right?
That's right. That's right. He was making an art film. How did you know? I mean, you know, it's either that like Wes Craven was making an art film or Ingmar Bergman was making exploitation.
I like that. Yeah. So how did Mark Steger come about to be the Mimic? Former guest here on the show.
Oh, he was a guest on the show.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. I actually reached out to see if he'd come back on, but I have an old email, so and I thought about it too late. But
gotcha. Yeah, Mark's great. He was the first actor that we cast in the movie. He was cast before Willa Holland, before Paul Sparks, before John Adams, before anybody. And you know, we wanted a really great physical actor who was comfortable inhabiting creatures to play the Mimic. And you can't beat Mark in that department. He's just such a, you know, he really understood the assignment too. He knew that if he was very precise in his movements, the more still he was, the more that every little thing that he did with his body would matter, you know? So working with Mark was a remarkable experience because he thought through the character so thoroughly. And it's something I like about him is that he doesn't, you know, he thinks it through, you know, he inhabits this rubber and paint like he's inhabiting a character. And, you know, you could talk to Mark about what you wanted the character to be and how you wanted it to be represented. And he and Norman Cabrera were very old friends. So like they also knew how to explain to me what they could do inside of the creature suit that would have impact, you know, and it's very collaborative exchange with both of those guys. So I think the world of Mark. I absolutely loved working with him, and he was very moving because afterwards he, you know, wrote me a very nice message and said that he really enjoyed working with me and that not all directors treat creature actors like people because they're often feel, you know, they they're often treated like props, and this has been true since fucking Boris Karloff back in the James.
Yeah, a lot of them didn't even get credited in a lot of those movies.
Not even credited. You know,
Yeah.
he's the iconic monster in James Whale's Frankenstein. He's billed like 10th, and they don't even give him a credit. They're like the monster played by ?
Yeah.
You know, which is so fucked up.
And
And then
James Webb was his boyfriend too. Did you know that?
Boris Karloff's boyfriend.
No,
He
no,
was
Boris
boyfriend
was
too.
married. We've had his daughter on the show.
There's
So.
maybe
Well,
maybe Dr. Frankenstein's boyfriend. You know,
Tom Hanks told me all about it.
Tom Hanks would know. But you know, but then, you know, when they were doing Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 for a minute, they were like, we don't need Robert Englund. Let's just get a
Yeah, and there's like some clips out there of like just that whole idea, because it's not even, it's bad enough when it is like a guy maybe doesn't have dialogue and they're in a suit or whatever, but like to just like we're gonna recast Freddy, that's insane. But along those lines, I do think people creature actors or masked actors, they don't get credit for being good actors, because I've seen movies where it's not necessarily a great actor that's in the suit or whatever, and their presence isn't there. I'm a wrestling fan, so even like luchadors who
100%.
their charisma comes through the mask and everything, and then sometimes they'll be portrayed by another person if they get older, they retire, whatever, and sometimes it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and Mark is an extraordinary actor. You know, like when you cast him, you know that you're going to get something really magnificent and like really thought through and was done with enormous sensitivity and care. And you know what's funny is like people are so scared of the monsters in these movies, but when they're on set, they're actually the most vulnerable people. So Mark can't see, he can't hear, or he can barely hear. You have to, like, when you're talking to him, you have to speak slowly and succinctly, you know, so that he can hear what you're saying, because he will point to his ears if he couldn't hear you. You know, and then when he's walking around on the set, he needs a production assistant or Norman, or a special effects artist or somebody to lead him around. So anybody who's like, I'm so terrified of that monster's face and I don't know why is it on the poster, it creeps me out so much, is like, just imagine that person being led around like a blind person who can't hear, you know, and is actually the most vulnerable person on the set. You know, that's often the person in the creature suit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hop off now, guys.
All right, we'll see you, Bill. Thank you for hopping on. Good to see you.
It's a real treat. My love to Dolores as well.
Yeah,
yeah.
Love you guys.
Good to see you again, Dolores.
You too.
How do I get out of here? That's what
I'll kick you out.
Thanks a lot.
You can't stay here. You have to go home. You can't stay here.
I've been wanting to do that for years. Kick Bill out of the show.
Dear sweet Bill Whedon, I love him so much.
Yeah, Bill, Dolores, they're amazing. I just did a movie with them. I don't know, last August or something, and the trailer will come out this month, so I'm very excited.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
My last time with Bill was probably 2.5 years ago or something like that. You know, I was very happy to be on set with him again.
Yeah, I have a huge scene with Bill, and I told Bill at the time, and I meant it. It was the first time I actually really felt like an actor. I've had people on the show talk about when you work with like someone more experienced than you, like, you know, you learn from them, and it was exactly like people had told me. We made eye contact. We had a really dramatic scene, and it definitely elevated me. And I was very happy.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, like Bill's a great scene partner. He's so engaged, and he just exists in the present tense. Like everything is happening right now with Bill. I love it.
Yeah, a very passionate guy, even if it's in hatred for Tom Hanks. But
no, he let you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he knew. Yeah, some of those movies he mentioned, I've seen him post about them. I was like, I like these movies. But so, well, the morgue itself, because you talked about, you know, it's kind of stylized. Was it like an actual morgue, and then you did something to it, or was it completely built?
No, it was completely built from the ground up. It was the biggest build that I've ever experienced as a director. You know, I was an assistant director on some projects which built sets that were that much, but like no, the entire interior of the mortuary was built. Like a couple of like the only room that was half built already was the utility room where time slips and she starts slipping out of reality. But everything else, like the bathroom and the basement area and the entire top floor of the mortuary was all built from the ground up. So there's a space in Missouri, and we hired a bunch of builders and welders, and our absolute genius of a production designer, Chelsea Turner, essentially we had these blueprints in the beginning that we were pouring over, her and I and the director of photography. So the set was built to specifications of what we wanted to do with the camera, which is a really cool experience, because we're used to walking onto a set and being like, okay, how do we accommodate this set? And on Slapface, we built like one wall where we had to shoot a bullet hole through it. But this was a horse of a different color. We were building an entire mortuary, and then the exterior was a actual funeral home, that was in Jefferson City, Missouri. But yeah, we really loved doing the build. I mean, just having that level of control over the set and the quality of light, and the color scheme and the entire tone of it was a really special experience. And the game creator Brian Clark was with us in the early going, telling us what was important to him about the layout.
Yeah.
So we always regarded him as the well. We would go to the well and draw water from it, and we would always expect, we always wanted Brian Clark to be involved, whether we were talking about the layout of the space or the demonology of his game or the lore or whatever it was. And yeah, then you've just got like a team of people, and it was really actually an extraordinary experience, Neil. Like it felt closer to that smell of the sawdust that you feel in the theater. We were walking onto a set, and like the first week, it's just like wood and frames. And then as each week goes by, it's becoming more and more the world of the Mortuary Assistant. And then when the game creator showed up on set, he showed up the day before principal photography. He walked onto the set, and it was an unbelievable moment where imagine something that you'd created in your head. Like he was a solo game developer, so he created every single element of this game. And he's walking onto a set, and now it's existing around him in 3-dimensional reality. It was really quite stunning, and really special experience for him. He cried a little bit then, and then at the end of principal photography, he and I were both crying a little bit because it was over. We had such a good time. We're so happy making the movie. It's funny because Slapface and the Mortuary Assistant are very dark, weird movies. But the sets that we worked on were not dark, weird sets. They were actually very friendly. The people working on the film cared a lot, and were really dedicated to getting it right. But also were very kind and very courteous towards each other. And that's it's always a wonderful thing when you're making something that's twisted. You just don't want to be around twisted people,
Yeah.
And when
it's funny you say that, because I know like a few times I've been to, I used to go to conventions a lot and stuff. And like the taxi driver or whatever, they'd be like, "Oh, it must be all like these crazy people at like the horror." And it's like, no, they're all pretty normal.
Yeah,
or not necessarily normal, but they're all nice people. They're good people.
Most of them are so kind. Like Michael Berryman from Hills Have Eyes. I used a movie like 15 years ago that he was in called Satan Hates You, and he was the sweetest. Like just the sweetest, kindest, gentlest guy. And in between takes, he would be like singing songs and stuff like that. And you're like, how could anybody be terrified of Michael Berryman? He's just like so generous of spirit and so lovely. And then just when you're rolling, you can just turn on the creepy, like almost effortlessly. I mean, he's so skilled at it.
Yeah. My very first guest on the show, the first episode was Sid Haig, which was nerve-wracking because it was a very big guest. So we called, and we were audio only, so we called him up in 2006. And just a great guy, very nice guy. And I always think like if he wouldn't have been, like maybe I just would have quit and like I don't think I want to do this anymore. But he was really just a great guy. And I think again someone known for horror.
Super cool. You don't have to name names or anything like that, but have you ever had experience with
only really one person, and I've told the story many times on the show that I've had a bad experience with, and it's probably really not anybody that anyone would know, but only really one person I can think of.
I think the horror industry is like filled with people of goodwill who are genuinely kind and very cool. And it's nice because and what's funny is when I was just out of college, my roommate ran a stand-up comedy show, and some of the stand-up comedians were like really grouchy off of
I've heard that
performing. That was pretty interesting.
I think it's kind of like a thing a lot, especially maybe still now, but they had alcoholic they had some kind of issues, or just not necessarily the greatest people, or
sure.
or maybe not necessarily great people, but have their own anger problems.
Oh,
or,
sure. Yeah, without a doubt.
Which is probably makes sense. I mean, then you use your humor, I guess, as to deal with like different issues you have.
No, that's true. I mean, if you have a very dark soul and you can use it to create a humorous situation for an audience, then you can't be all bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Or I
Well,
hope.
actually, I was kind of thinking of this. Not that she's battling her demons in the movie, but I always like that phrase. And in your movie, there is kind of that the idea that like the demons are feeding off her own fears or different. And I like it kind of like in The Shining, same way with their ghosts. But
Sure.
I don't know. I think there's something interesting to me there because I always think these phrases have some kind of origin to them. Like fighting your demons, and before people knew what alcoholism was or drug addiction, they just did think it was an actual demon.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
there is something there. Maybe maybe there is.
yeah, and when you're suffering from those conditions, it can feel like there's a vulture that's like digging into your skull. If you're suffering from depression, it just feels like there's no hope coming from anywhere. Like it feels like there's no one coming to help you, and that can be a very lonely, isolating, terrifying experience. And but I think movies have always been really good at taking things that are real problems and using the horror genre as a way to talk about it. My favorite example is like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. It's like if you were watching that guy dying of cancer, it would be unbearable to behold, or dying of AIDS or something.
Yeah.
If it were a straight up drama, but like him turning into a giant fly, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it enables me to think about something I don't want to think about in a way that also creates a distancing device because it's like larger than life. And like, you just, people don't turn into giant flies, but like that fantastical element allows us to talk about something that's very real. I thought that movie was so moving in that way. It's a real accomplishment that by the end of that movie, you're crying because you're so moved by the horror of what's happening to Seth Brundlefly.
Yeah, and there's really no chance of him like, coming back from that. It's a hopeless movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah, very romantic movie, but also very dark and very hopeless. And the balance of those two things is, I think, what makes it a good movie.
Yeah. And that's something I always bring up because people are very anti, remake today. And I get it. I think they remake too much stuff. But if the idea of being against all remakes, you wouldn't have The Fly, you wouldn't have John Carpenter's A Thing, you wouldn't have like some really great movies. Yeah.
Made a couple times and very well.
Neil, I kind of think all versions of it are good.
What's a movie that you would love to see a remake of? Like, if somebody had a really interesting take on it.
I used to always say Creature from the Black Lagoon, but in a lot of ways, The Shape of Water, I guess, was the remake of it. Because I always think, either have something new to say, or like if it's something old from another, something that's old that's like they just made movies differently back then. You know what I mean? Because I did see their remake in Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and I do find that interesting.
I know, and that's pretty wild. I mean, I was a little bit like, oh, really? But then, like, when I heard that it was Michael Shannon,
I
was like, oh, that could be pretty interesting, actually. He's such a compelling actor.
I like this idea, though. I have to really think about it. Something that I would like to see a remake of. Do you have any that pop into your head?
Well, I mean, it's funny because like my mind doesn't quite go there, but like I think we're about due for another Body Snatchers movie. It's been a while since we've had one, and then those films always scared me.
I think today if you did it, you have to use technology in some way, which isn't really part of any of the other ones. But everyone's connected to cell phones or the internet, so
I know, and in a weird sort of way, we're getting body snatched, by some of the. By the algorithm,
right? It's kind of like we were saying, taking a real problem and make it, supernatural or
that's right,
fantasy or something. So something like that would totally work.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, and the other, I mean, John Carpenter would never sanction a requel of They Live. I mean, I wouldn't want to see a remake.
I love They Live, but it's
a perfect movie, right? But like, if they were finding a way to, like not do a remake of it, but like maybe kind of find a way to update it as a requel or something like that. You can easily imagine somebody like CM Punk like coming in and doing something interesting with that kind of.
Yeah, so you can have another big long fight scene, of course. So
Well, I mean, what's wrong with Keith
no,
David versus Roddy Piper? But
that's
They
a
Live, I mean,
great.
that's a tricky one because like They Live is a great movie, and
And it's like more. It was. I think it's more topical today than even when it was
I
made.
know. I never tire of watching that movie. It
No,
always like grips me. And I agree with you. Like when you're watching scenes like when the police department is bulldozing over the camp, you know, you're like, oh my God, it just
yeah.
feels so up to the minute.
Mhm.
Where, you know, you just feel like, and you know, the other creepy thing about that movie is that the aliens kind of want money, you know, like they just want resources and money. And like for the human elite, and during that scene where Roddy Piper and this guy and Keith David find the human elite having that shitty dinner party, I'm like, man, the aliens don't even want to give their human elite force like a decent, you know, like the buffet is probably shit in that movie. And you're just, and like Buck Flower comes out and like, hey boys, we're part of the thing together. And I was like, man, you got the shit end of the stick. You know, the aliens don't care about you. They're out for themselves. You know, they're a billionaire class and they fucking hate you. They're not going to do anything to help you. It's really creepy and a wonderful, scary movie. I think Piper and Keith David are absolutely brilliant in it.
Oh
and
yeah.
We're better.
That's the biggest. You know, I don't know if you know, I do a wrestling podcast too, but yeah, I think that's the best. And we've had a lot of good ones, I guess, in the last since then. But I still think that's the best wrestler turned actor performances. Piper.
Yeah, I love Roddy Piper in that movie. I think he's perfect for that movie, and I wish that he'd done more films because I think he's interesting and charismatic, and you know, and the character he's playing in They Live is not the Roddy Piper persona of the heel.
Yeah, he's not just playing himself, right?
In the wrestling world. So I wish Piper had done more. You know, I think he had a lot more to offer, and
I agree.
See it.
Yeah, like I actually like Hell Comes to Frogtown. I think it's
that
actually,
movie's not bad. You know, it's like
it's not They Live, but I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Piper brings a lot to that movie too.
Yeah.
It's pretty
He's
fun.
definitely, I think, before
like Street Trash and stuff like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's true. I think he's definitely before his time. Like, I think it was hard to people to give too much credit to a wrestler in the 80s or the 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, that's our loss, you know. Like, but
So,
like, I guess that's changed too. In much of the way that video games have finally caught up, and we can make interesting movies out of them. Like, wrestling has given us like Dave Bautista and CM Punk, who give very credible. Like Dave Bautista's great. He's a great
I think he's the best modern of the wrestler actors, honestly.
Yeah, and I thought that The Rock, you know, just kind of came out at the wrong time. He came, if he had hit during the Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme era, then he probably would have been in a bunch of cool movies. You know, you can
honestly, he did for me. He's in a lot of stuff that I don't personally care about.
Yeah, he did a bunch of movies that aren't very good. You know, and
it was funny. His last movie, I thought the Smashing Machine, I really liked it. It was like this giant bomb, and I was like,
yeah, everybody
like his performance. But
I haven't seen it yet, but but yeah, like once The Rock's movie career was over, then like people like Batista and CM Punk were coming in and doing really interesting work and really cool movies.
Yeah, and I think Batista picks interesting things as another.
He's pretty smart in his choices. You know, I mean, and you know, he plays roles where he gets to really stretch his range.
Yeah, he's not just always just the big guy.
That's right. Really good. Like my favorite part in the Blade Runner sequel is the Batista scene.
I agree. I wish there was more of that, because there's parts of movie I liked. He's at the beginning, I think, and I mean, I went to the theaters with my brother, and we're like, oh, this can be great, and then I can't say I think it's a terrible movie, but it's not.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible movie, but I do, you know, it is kind of like if Iron Lung is too long, then Blade Runner 2 is definitely too long. I mean, you know, and the thing that was really cool about the original is that it's a really thoughtful, smart movie, but it's kind of structured like a detective story and a pulp story, and it's got a lot of action in it. And it doesn't like stop to analyze the metaphysics of it all, you know. And like Blade Runner 2 is like a little bit aware that it's supposed to be a great important movie, so they talk about great important things. And I was like, you know, cut all that stuff out. The first movie never did that, and it just like posed interesting questions that you thought about afterwards.
Yeah, you don't want too much of that stuff like spoon fed to you. It's more about you think about, you know, stuff that you're not seeing. What does this mean? And like, how did they get here? And yeah, I agree.
I'm allergic to Jared Leto. I feel the way about him that Bill feels.
I agree with you 1,000%. I didn't even want to bring this up, but if I see Jared Leto's in a movie, I'm always like, oh, I don't.
No,
and I don't feel that way about too many people.
Where, like,
but
he shows up and gets beaten to death. That's the only time I've ever. And it's like, good. You can't beat him to death fast enough.
Yeah, and I've heard he's not particularly good guy, so then I don't feel bad saying that. So
great. Yeah.
Yeah, anytime he's in something, me and my brother the same way, and I said it, like, he ruined playing the new Blade Runner. I was like, he was like my least favorite part of it,
and he really fucks it up. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, there was something else I forget too, but it was the same way. I was like,
that's right, you forgot because it's so forgettable. It's like, you want to put that guy out of your mind. Why do you need to do that to yourself?
Yeah, that actually, because I grew up a big He-Man fan, and I was like, oh god, he's playing
Skeletor. That's right, he's fucking playing Skeletor.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, oh, that trailer is like annoyingly woke and stuff like that. And I'm like, no, the trailer is fine. It's like fucking Jared Leto is playing Skeletor, and that kills it for me. I'm out. I'm not gonna
I agree, because besides that, I'm like, oh, I could see all the people. It's like, there's Ram Man, there's they have like all the characters. I was like, oh, this is we played it on the show a couple weeks ago, and so the other people on the show, AJ and Tara, they don't really know all the He-Man guys like I do. And so I was like, oh, there's Ram Man and
it's definitely a generation thing,
right? and then AJ and Tara, like, are all these characters just like super homoerotic? And I'm like, I guess so.
Like, straight up, like, He-Man and Skeletor, like, you're straight up like in that world, and you can't deny it. Don't pretend that it's not that.
AJ's like, are you just making these names up, Fisto and Ram Man? I'm like, no, that's the real character.
I know. Accurate assessment.
Yeah, exactly. The Mortuary Assistant, Friday the 13th. So I like that. See, I've never played the video game, and I really like the movie. So I think that same thing like a movie or anything, it's important that I think you still appeal to the people who know the source material, but you can't like assume everyone does. So it has to appeal to
both. And the game creator was great about that. Brian Clark was in our very early meetings, he said, don't feel like you're slavishly obligated to accurately doing the whole thing in the game or whatever. It's like, stay true to the world of the game, stay true to the characters of the game, stay true to the themes that we're doing. But I understand that a game is a different mechanism than a movie, and we talked about it a lot and said, like, well, what if in the movie we never create anything that would be inadmissible in the game, but at the same time we can also dramatize things and, like, stretch out a little bit more or truncate certain things, or there are certain elements in the game that I thought we wanted to make a very practical effects driven movie, and some of the things that happen in the game is you would need CGI for it, and it was like, if we did that, it would just look like shit, so let's not do that. Let's lean hard into practical effects. And Brian was totally like, I totally get it, and I agree with you, and like, let's play it that way. But I mean, involving the game creator in every step of the way, we were able to honor all of the elements in the game while working with a collaborator who understood that movies work in a different way, and the way that an audience engages with the movie is different. And even though I liked Iron Lung more than you did, I feel like that movie does depend on, certain things happen in that movie where it's like, you have to kind of understand what that means in the game in order for it to have a
That's what I felt like for me. I mentioned in this because they would show just like a trinket of some kind. I'm like, I have no idea what this is supposed to mean to me, and I don't know if it pays off later. Sometimes it didn't, and I just did feel like I need.
Yeah, and I felt
where a Mortuary Assistant, it actually made me want to go play the game. Honestly,
that makes me happy because we wanted the audience to feel that way. If they didn't know the game, that would be great, because if they liked the movie, that's like, all right, let's explore that world more in the game. And if they like the game and see it as a movie, they don't feel betrayed by anything that we've done. But I also didn't want to like stop and pause for an Easter egg and be like, here's the cup, the important cup in the game. And it's like, no, the cup might be there in the background, but I'm never gonna stop. We're making a 91-minute movie where we're on the move. Like, I always loved that John Carpenter films were often like a tight 90 minutes, and like, it's like you're engaged in the story and you leave, and we never wanted to stop the movie to fan service something from the game. If you want to pause the movie and look in the corners and stuff like that, you will find certain things that like are there for people who love the game. But if you don't care about those things as a casual viewer who just wants a good story about Rebecca Owens and the night that she's having and the resolution of that night, then you don't need to worry about any of that stuff. You know, we're never going to pause and look at a map or something, you know, and dwell on that. You know, I just don't think that the moviegoer experience should be like that for anything, you know. And I think if you handle the movie correctly, you know, then you can certainly play the game and like live in that environment more and explore that environment more. But you know, for the movie, it was like we just, you know, like I think that I actually think that like the tighter the movies are, the denser they are. You know, it's like if you're able to do lean economical storytelling, then the audience is extremely smart and they fill in so much of the world. Like Escape from New York is a pretty cool B movie because it doesn't stop, and like it's a fully thought out world in their,
you know, lots of different characters and
future, right? But the movie never stops. And it's like, well, the reason that they do this like airlifting thing is that you know, it's like they give you the bare minimum at the beginning. It's like New York City is a prison. There's walls around the thing. There's mines in the water. Go, you know. President's plane is down 5 minutes in the movie. 10 minutes in, like they're Snake Plissken, go in there, you know. And I'm like, wow, that's really great. You know, it's like so much happens in that movie. It's so packed with interesting incidents. And it never stops to like give you an expository exchange about something, you know, about how that world got built. You're more left to inhabit that world with Snake Plissken, which I think is really smart.
Another cool wrestler in there,
Ox
Baker.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very cool wrestler and a very cool scene. You know, where
I love the scene.
This guy. Another, actually, like, wow, yeah, you know, it's great to hear you say that because it's like, oh yeah, that, you know, They Live wasn't the first time that John Carpenter did an extraordinary hand-to-hand fight scene in the middle of his movie. Like, you know, Escape from New York, it's really well staged.
Yeah, I could actually even see I mean, like, you can't go wrong with the Snake Plissken in the movie, but I could have seen Roddy Piper playing Snake Plissken in a version of the movie.
Oh yeah, there's a version of that movie where like Roddy Piper would have done a great job. You know, Ghosts of Mars would have really kicked ass if it were like Roddy Piper instead of Ice Cube. And I think Ice Cube is cool. I really like him in a lot of movies that he's done. Ghosts of Mars, it felt like I don't know, between the lines, it seemed like Ice Cube and John Carpenter didn't quite get along, or Ice Cube didn't understand what the hell they were doing there, or just didn't like it. And John Carpenter wasn't the happiest at that time either. But, you know, if it were something more along the lines of like a Roddy Piper playing the Ice Cube role, like then you would have been like, oh, total B movie heaven. Roddy Piper is in jail on Mars and he's going to break out and fight the, you know, Martian marauders. It's like, where's my money? You know, like, I'm gonna give you my money right now. Please show me that film.
Yeah. I wonder if John Carpenter, is he a wrestling fan? He must have at least.
I wonder, he must be. I mean,
at
like,
some level, I would think.
Ox Baker, so he must on some level. You know, and it seems there's actually, it's very funny because John Carpenter is a huge video game enthusiast. Like, you know,
that's really weird. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, and actually, the version of The Thing, they did a video game version of The Thing as a sequel. It's pretty good. You know, it's a little bit more of a first person shooter and doesn't so much have the paranoia and slow burn, then explosions of monsters thing that the movie does so brilliantly. But it is kind of cool to like go into the game and like see, you know, be able to interact with the thing in that way. And I think that the relationship between that film and that game is interesting. John Carpenter actually plays a role in the game. He plays an ill-fated doctor that they encounter. He doesn't live to tell the tale, but he's in it for a good 10 minutes and gets a really cool performance.
Have you ever played the board game? I absolutely love it. It's like one of my favorite board games.
I've seen the board game. I haven't played it, but I've looked at it and I've like read through the rules and stuff like that.
Yeah, you need like a group of people to play it, and you all play the actual characters, and you actually get and you actually feel paranoid playing it because when you first start, one person may be the thing. As it goes on, at least one person will be the thing, and maybe more. And if you are, you have to actively lie and not tell everybody, and you're trying to sabotage the game for everybody else. And then and you start to guess. And the first time we played it, we all thought this a friend of ours was the thing, and so we all voted to burn her alive with the flamethrower. and she wasn't the thing. And I actually
You
felt
just
like,
tortured a human being,
yeah, I
which
still
makes you a
felt,
murderer.
I still feel guilty about it. I know it was just a board game, but then we all died. Because
Oh
we,
yeah, because you chose in error.
yeah,
You know, I think that the thing could be a really awesome video game now because they're doing all these cool versions of.
oh yes, but like the ones where you play online, yeah, with
Yeah,
everybody.
you can have a group of people playing the game.
You could be
I
the
mean,
same way, like where you the person who is the thing would know and the other people wouldn't.
I know that would be genius. You
Yeah.
know, if they could figure out a way to do it, it would be uncanny.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Someone actually just a filmmaker friend of mine in Austria said there's a book that he really liked. It's called The Things, and it's
Oh, I've
a
heard about it.
retelling of it, but through the eyes of the alien,
Yeah, I've heard about
where
this. I've never
humans
read
are
it.
like the
People really love this story.
yeah, and I was like, this sounded really interesting to me.
I would totally read that if given the opportunity. I mean, The Thing is probably my favorite. You know, when people ask like, "What's your favorite horror movie?" It's always like, "Wow, God, there's so many." But you know, if truth be told, you know, I think John Carpenter's The Thing is up there. You know, it's like it might
It's
be
really a perfect movie, and like when I was a kid, I just loved it because the aliens were awesome. And then as an adult, like it's kind of like perfect. There's like the acting's great, the whole tension of it, and there's you actually feel cold watching it, and like,
oh yeah,
and so I'm like, and the aliens are still are, and I
oh
like that the aliens in it are so alien. It's not just like a guy in a suit. Like it's like
no,
this
there's
weird thing.
kind of no guy in a suit. I mean, the thing that's so beautiful about the special effects in that movie is it's always changing. Like it's a spider head. No, it's like giant teeth coming out of his stomach. It's like it's anything, you know. It morphs into so many different versions of like what this alien is. That you know, it's because like Alien, Ridley Scott's classic, is such a great movie, but like ultimately, it's like it does grow during the course of the movie, but
Yeah.
ultimately it grows into a form where it's like, okay, as cool as that
Yeah.
monster is, it's still like a guy.
Yeah, because there are scenes like when he kind of just jumps out, it's like and it's
Yeah.
I still like it, but it still is. Yeah,
I know,
like
I
a
love the
cool
movie,
guy,
but it
yeah.
is like
I
a guy
love
in
it,
a
yeah.
suit, you know. And The Thing, you can never really point to it and be like, "There's the guy in the suit," because it's always such an elaborate bunch of puppetry that you don't even, you know, like you'd have to really study it to see exactly how they did it.
Yeah, and it's still, you know, human parts, which makes it even creepier, you know, because
so creepier, yeah.
I just love that movie. And also now I think about all the Carpenter movies, it's something else that I like, where it's movies that you can't really fit into one like genre.
Oh,
It's
sure.
like, you know,
There's a
The
lot of science
Thing,
fiction.
obvious horror, but it's science fiction, and
Sure.
then some of the stuff like I don't even know what genre you put, like Big Trouble in Little China.
I know,
Like,
or Starman, romantic, you know, very
yeah.
romantic movie. Science fiction, sure, but like, yeah, and then Vampires kind of feels a little bit like a Western. Really cool. One thing I should say is like our director of photography on Mortuary Assistant was the camera operator for Dean Cundy, who
Oh
shot.
wow.
Yeah, so we did a couple of jobs with Dean Cundy, and that was our first, you know, when I met Kevin and we're doing our very first conversation, you know, like we're talking about Dean Cundy because, you know, we're talking about the way that he shot the atmosphere, you know, the camp and the thing and how the camera is like prowling around, you know. And Kevin said he learned so much from Dean Cundy. He learned so much about lighting. He learned so much about photography, and that Dean Cundy, you know, is also a pretty cool guy. And then the thing that turned me into like a little 5-year-old child jumping for joy was Kevin did some lighting tests for the Mortuary Assistant. They were very abstract, but like, you know, we're testing out the lightning effects and stuff like that. And he posted them online. And then the first like came from Dean Cundy, and it was such a empowering moment. Like Kevin and I were both like jumping for joy because this director of photography was a hero to all of us. You know, it was like, oh my God, he likes the lighting that we're doing. He likes the technique that we're employing for this movie. I can't tell you how happy that made us, because Dean Cundy is a hero to all of us because of Halloween and The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China and Jurassic Park and, you know, Back to the Future. Like, so having his endorsement of Kevin's lighting like really meant a lot to us.
Yeah, that's all. Former guest on the show, Dean Cundy. So, yeah.
Oh my God, you had him as a guest?
Yeah, way back like 2007 or something. One of our early guests. So yeah, and it's super. Honestly, I actually got when I was going through all his credits, I started to think this guy's coming on our show, like, you know what I mean? Like,
No,
does he know?
I think that he follows his heart. I think he's interested in. I think he loves movies and is kind of interested in talking about them, but also, you know, uh, like I think he'll do the occasional independent film just because
Yeah, yeah.
if it suits his fancy. If
I
he's
always like that. There's, oh, I can't think of names right now, but people that I know can be like A-list movies all
sure.
the time, and they'll do like some really weird stuff.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
like the kid from Harry Potter
Oh, sure. No, he does a
and
lot of weird movies, which is good.
yeah, and I love that because I'm
Oh,
like,
I love it too.
he doesn't need to, but apparently he must really like these weird things, which I
Oh, yeah,
appreciate.
it's fantastic. No, I loved the Elijah Wood after he did
That's who I was trying to
Lord
think
of
of
the
too.
Rings.
Elijah Wood, yeah,
Daniel Radcliffe too has done a lot of weird
yeah.
movies. Like Elijah Wood, like did tons of like low budget horror movies, and it was just
Yeah,
like
like Greasy Strangler produced it. It probably wouldn't get made if it wasn't for him. And
right. And
so
he
yeah, I'm
did
a big fan.
the Maniac remake.
That's actually a
All,
remake I think
all,
is really underrated. I like that a lot.
I know it's such a cool movie, and it's a really good concept. I mean, it's another one where like they had a really fresh and original take on how to do a remake. It's completely different than the Bill Lustig
Yeah,
sleaze
because I really like the Bill Lustig one, and
yeah.
when I heard they were doing this, I was like, man, like
I know you're like ick,
this
but then
like good
when you see
looking
the movie,
guy,
you're like,
Maniac,
it's extremely well made. It's so thoughtfully created and like it still is like icky and stuff like that, but it's
yeah,
also
yeah.
done in such an
They
intelligent,
change your character so it
really
makes
thoughtful
sense,
way. Oh yeah, totally. Like, all the characters are better in the remake.
Yeah, yeah.
The original does have like Tom Savini getting his head blown off. But
Yeah,
besides
yeah,
that,
and
it's like kind of a tough watch.
and probably my favorite, just like the sleaziest poster I think I've ever seen is the
It is
original
the
Maniac.
sleaziest. Oh my god! Like when you went into the video store, you're just like, oh boy. I Spit on Your Grave is probably the most sleazy, but Maniac is right up
yeah. I'm glad Nolan, you asked us after Bill left. Do you like Christopher
there.
Nolan? I like him quite a bit.
We think he's great, but Bill Whedon thinks he's shit. He thinks that we should go to his house and like beat him up with his Oscar, like
Take this.
That's Bill Whedon. Personally, I think Christopher Nolan's a really talented filmmaker.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm actually very happy that a movie like Oppenheimer did so well, because usually like blockbuster movies are, like a big explosion movies, and they didn't always used to be like that, like Jaws and Jurassic Park. Like they're really good, great movies too. Raiders of the Lost Ark.
No, if you made Jaws right now, so first of all, Jaws is one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah.
But like, if you made Jaws now, it'd be like A20. What was that company's name?
A24.
A24 or somebody like that would be doing Jaws, because they'd be like, it's so slow and character driven. It's like, it's a big event shark movie. It's the best shark movie ever made. It's like, nah, it's too slow and has too much character development. Nothing, can we blow up the shark? Some shit like that.
Yeah.
But that movie's a classic. It's perfect. I think it's like evergreen. I could watch.
Oh yeah, and the strength of it are the three guys. But so exactly what you're saying, people would feel like, or maybe this is woke or something, because it's not just nonstop shark eating people.
But that is the heart of that movie. Those three characters.
Oh yeah,
those three actors are so extraordinary.
And I have to say, the very rare instance where I think the film version is way better than the book.
The book sucks, actually.
Yeah,
I read that on a plane a couple years ago. I was like, you know what? I never read Jaws. Let me read it.
I just read a few years ago first
all
time.
this stupid shit happens in that book that like Spielberg cut out of the movie.
Yeah, it's like a soap opera, like with this, like he's having an affair, and like this isn't needed. Plus, it makes everyone unlikable, and
oh yeah, they're all either unlikable or stupid. It's like, oh no, I mean, like Spielberg, he's just such a intelligent filmmaker. He just knows it's like, nah, get rid of all of that
this stuff that
pare down to the essential, which is a sheriff who's afraid of the water, a guy and two guys who really know how to hunt sharks that are oppositional.
Yeah, right.
Put those guys out there to hunt the shark, and you got a terrifying movie.
Yeah.
All that
when I listened to the audiobook, and when I got to the end, I was like, I must have missed something. I got to rewind a chapter. I was like, no, this is like the most anticlimactic ending I've ever read, I think.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's the dumbest book ever, and by not reading the book, you never missed anything. It does succeed in making you love the film even more.
Yes, yeah. I actually think that's really hard to. I wouldn't say it's easy to write a great movie off a great book. but I think it has to. There's like a special skill there to like notice like there's something really here, but take
Yeah.
out all the stuff that isn't needed.
For sure. You know, there's some controversial book to movie adaptations. Like Stephen King notoriously despises
The
Stanley
Shining.
Kubrick's The Shining. And it's funny because I think that the movie is immaculate and kind of
Agree.
perfect in many
Uh-huh.
ways. You know, I love the film, and it's such a masterful piece of filmmaking and so scary. And the performances that are like very heightened don't bother me. I think they're very strong.
I agree.
But it is one of those things when you read the book, you're like, this book is also really strong and really smart and very scary. But you just start regarding them as two different animals. You know,
Mhm.
you're like, okay, the book is the book and the movie is the movie.
Yeah.
And then when Mick Garris did the TV version that was more faithful adaptation of the book, it just kind of didn't work.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, you're just like, I mean, you know, and Mick Garris is a perfectly lovely guy who's made some
Mhm.
interesting films, but I think his version of The Shining, it's really tough because like when you're watching it, all you can think about is
Yeah, this isn't Jack Nicholson or something, but yeah.
it's tough.
Yeah, I agree. And not even just Jack Nicholson, honestly, like everyone is pretty iconic in the movie. All like
Everyone's
the
iconic in the
people.
movie. Yeah, like the little kid is, you know, quite spectacular. Shelley Duvall, I think her performance is wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I love all the stuff with Scatman Crothers. You know, I
Yeah.
think it all works. You know, it's a
Mhm.
really stunning piece of work, and you know, it does
I
make
like
me
the ending better in the movie than the book. I'm not a big fan of
kind
the
of do
ending. of the
too.
book.
You know, because the ending of the book, I mean, I think it's a terrific book, but it does kind of
Oh, yeah,
have
yeah.
a pretty long epilogue. You know, where
Mhm.
you're kind of dawdling around with everybody afterwards, and you're like, nah, Kubrick was right. You know, it's like, I mean, it follows the old adage of like Universal horror movies, where it's like, monster's dead, movie's over. You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so like once Jack is taken out of the equation, the movie just ends immediately.
Mhm.
Like they cut out the scene that they had in the theatrical release, which I've never seen, and maybe it's really good, but there's something powerful about Jack's done, you know, Shelley Duvall and the kid are driving away, and that's the end
Yeah,
of
and just seeing him frozen there, I mean, that's like a really like
powerful.
powerful
Yeah.
scene. And like it, yeah, I always loved the first part of both the TV one and the new one.
Kids, yeah.
Yeah, and the second part's I actually didn't like it the second part all in the new one. But the end is always like I just think it's
Such a tricky
I don't know
ending.
if it's I don't think it's impossible to film, but I think you have to have like you have to do it in a stylized way where you don't really show what Pennywise is, and you kind of
Oh, it's so
you do
tricky.
have to rely on the audience, like because in the book it's the deadlight's like whatever is like the scariest thing to use. So how do you film that? I'm not really
Right, of
sure.
course. Yeah, and it's never been as powerful as a movie or a TV series as it was in the book. You know, that's one
Mhm.
where, you know, it just feels like such a literary achievement at the end of that story. And yeah, they've never cracked the code of it at the end. You know, and I do agree with you. I think the stuff with the kids is stronger in both the movie and the TV series. But I thought that, you know, but I thought they got Pennywise right both times. I thought Tim
I do
Curry's
too, and I
performance
like that they
was
do
really
two different.
strong.
It's really two different versions because
Yeah, I agree.
there's strengths to both of them. I think in the newer one they do a better job making them seem otherworldly.
Sure.
And I'm not
Totally.
saying that's better or worse. It's just different, which I think is smart.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that both performances are it's kind of like when you're seeing Bela Lugosi or Christopher Lee playing Dracula. They're both
Yeah.
really interesting interpretations of the role. So
Mhm.
two good versions of Pennywise, one good version of Jack Torrance.
Yeah. And I didn't understand, and I don't know we're not here to talk about it or whatever, but the idea of they take out all like the idea of the original story in the first and the TV series is
Mm,
they have to, as grown adults, have to use like their imagination from when they were children to beat
right,
Pennywise, and that's like not used at all in the second one. Like the
right.
spray that's acid or the
Oh
bike
God,
that can
so silly.
outrun, fear. And like they don't do any of this. I don't.
No, it's pretty painful when you're watching It Part Two as the movie. I mean, I just found it so literal, you know, like it kind of left nothing to you, like, as you said before, like nothing's left to your imagination. Everything is kind of spelled out in a way that's too broad, and it makes it kind of silly. And you feel kind of bad because it's a bunch of good actors, but
Oh
like
yeah,
you
yeah.
just feel stranded in this movie that kind of gets lost in the spectacle when
Mhm.
it's supposed to be about these like, you know, I think the thing that Stephen King has always been so good at is identifiable human characters in extraordinary situations. And you kind of lost the humanity in It Part Two, and it was just about a bunch of CGI You know,
Yeah. When he, especially, yeah, because then he's like a giant thing, and I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I guess they're like, we can't just do a spider, so we have to go all out. But like, I don't know. He does. I don't need like a giant, goofy Pennywise.
And I've always loved horror movies where little children are at the center of it, like Phantasm is a kid.
That's actually one of my favorite movies. That's one of the few things that scared me was this tall man, because I was watching movies since I was a little kid. So I'm not the tough guy, but like I got used to him. But the tall man always scared me.
Oh, me too. And like there's a kid and people under the stairs, and then the kids in it, I always found those films so inspiring. So when we did Slapface, of course, it's like put a 12-year-old boy in a grown-up situation and like let the darkness ensue. But I was always very moved by that. I loved that it had characters that you feel like could be you, like put up against this terrible situation, this clown, and the book is really good at making the monster into anything, kind of like the John Carpenter, The Thing.
Yeah.
The monster in the book takes many forms, and in movies they just don't seem to ever have time for it, and they just are like, all right, Pennywise,
Yeah, he is the
of course our central antagonist in the book too, but like it feels like there's other
you can take other it's
shapes.
That's just the form he's like in. It's not
right.
He's not in the TV one. It almost is he is an evil clown, where that's not really what the idea is. But actually go back to the remakes. I would, even though I do like Dead Zone, because so about 5 years ago when I started walking a lot, I went through all these audiobooks I never read, and I went through like all the King ones, and Dead Zone is up there for one of my favorite King books.
Oh, cool.
And I think that even though their movie's fine, I like it, but I think I would like to see a different version of it that's more close to the book.
Yeah, I think the movie is really good, but like the thing that the book does really well is it kind of does work like almost like episodic TV show or something.
Yeah, because when I was reading, I thought it was over. It's like a few times, and I was like, "Wait a minute, there's still like 8 hours left in this audiobook." So it almost have to be a series. A
couple seasons of the Dead Zone. I mean, I know they tried it with like Anthony Michael Hall, but that felt like it was doing a whole different story. No, if you did a pretty faithful adaptation of the book, you could probably do like quite a number of like interesting episodes with a bunch of interesting adventures for Johnny Smith, like they do in the book, that culminate in his confrontation with Greg Stilson.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite horror novel? Because, like I said, I've been going through a lot of them, so I'm always looking for.
Well, while we're on the Stephen King track, I loved Revival, which has not been made into a movie yet. Like they were trying to get it done with Mike Flanagan, who's really passionate about the book, and I understand why. It's like my favorite Stephen King book of the past like 20 years, probably. It has such a scary ending. And it's like, and that's probably why it hasn't been made into a movie, is because like it's an uncompromising climax. But yeah, great characters, great story. And I don't want to give away where it goes, but like it's an ending that once read is unforgettable. And if somebody were like, hey, what book do you want to take a crack at? Like I probably would have said Paul Tremblay's Head Full of Ghosts, which is a great book too. They're making, but like they just announced they're making it into a movie with some really amazing people. So I'm looking forward to seeing it. But it's like, since they're doing that one, I would move to Revival by Stephen King. But Head Full of Ghosts,
I've not read Revival actually. I will add that to my Audible, or what's for people out there who are in audiobooks, I forget the name of it now, but there's a free app that all you got to do is join your local library, and which helps them out, and then you can borrow a Libby, it's called Libby, and then you can borrow audiobooks through your library and listen to them on your phone. It's I love it.
I can make a connection between the Stephen King audiobook and the Mortuary Assistant. So Paul Sparks, who plays the funeral director, Raymond Delver, he did an audiobook of a Stephen King novel called Billy. It's not Billy Elliot. That's the dance movie. Billy Summers. Billy Summers. Yeah. So I haven't read the book. It's a crime novel. And it's not in the world of Mr. Mercedes and all that other stuff, but like it's a hitman book.
Which is fantastic, by the way, Mr. Mercedes.
Oh, you've read it? Oh, great.
Yeah,
Mr. Mercedes is terrific. It's my favorite in that series. But like The Outsider is quite good too. Billy Summers is read by Paul Sparks, who's our number 2 in the Mortuary Assistant. And he gives a very good,
Yeah, and Paul Sparks is great in your movie.
Yeah, I loved working with him. He's a wonderful actor. So Paul Sparks, like again, like casting director Alison Estrin suggested him, and I said something real smart, like, Paul Sparks is never going to do this movie. He's not going to do this little horror movie. Because he does. Like I know him from doing a lot of like really legit plays. Like he was doing a play by Samuel D. Hunter right before our thing. Like that's the guy who wrote The Whale that Darren Aronofsky made into a film. And he does Sam Shepard plays and stuff like that, and does prestige. And then in press, he would say like, horror movies are so dumb. These, whatever. And I was like, he's so, we can make him an offer, but like, forget it, And of course, Paul Sparks took the offer and immediately played the video game, and then saw the 5 different endings and went on the internet and dug up all the stuff about the character and went and saw Slapface, which was very cool of him. This is before he said yes to doing anything. And then he meets with me, and we're talking all about, the world of the game and stuff like that. And, I can tell that like he's going to do it. It's like he wants to. And I was like, Paul, you hate horror movies though. He's like, no, I don't. He's like, I hate dumb horror movies. He's like, I love horror movies. I would love to do something like Hereditary. I would love to do something like really cool and smart. He's like, and I love what you guys are doing. And I thought Slapface was really cool, and let's go on this adventure together. And the more I got to know Paul Sparks, the more I was like, oh, he and I are the same age. Oh, he and I went to NYU at the same time. Oh, wait, we lived in the same fucking dorm building.
Oh, wow, that's really wild. Yeah.
He was like 2 floors above me in Rubin Hall. And I was like, fuck, man, we must have like passed each other in the hallways of NYU like a million times. We must have been in the elevator together. And I think I know who he was back from my school days, But yeah, Paul Sparks, like a truly brilliant actor, like so great in House of Cards and in Boardwalk Empire. Really smart, talented guy. Really cared, like invested deeply in the character. He was kind of like an architect. Like he essentially wrote like a big long essay about the character and like broke it down into subcompartments of like, I could do it this way or I could do it that way. And it's interesting the differences between actors. So like Willa Holland is the kind of actor who like dials it in and wants to nail the thing that she wants to do perfectly. And Paul Sparks is more like, if he does 5 takes, he wants to try 5 different things, and he likes to be directed, and he likes to have notes. And then John Adams is way more like intuitive, like just John Adams coming in and like just giving you interesting choices that will never be the same way twice, really interesting, cool guy. It was a cool cast, all of them were really like strong.
As a director, do you like that if people have different like
it doesn't bother me, like I'm kind of used to like actors having all different styles and coming from all different disciplines. And, it's really interesting to put actors who are in totally different schools of thought together in a scene and see what happens, And like Willa, it was cool because she was a little intimidated by Paul Sparks. Like Willa doesn't really have much respect for actors or acting, like having been in show business for years and years. Right. It's kind of like, it's all kind of a bunch of bullshit, really. But with Paul Sparks, she took him so seriously as an actor. When she heard he was doing it, she was like, oh, I'm a little intimidated by Paul's gravitas. It's like, she's like, I really need to up my game when I'm doing a scene with him. And I thought it served the story very well. Like, this like Willa understood that she should be kept on edge a little bit when she's around Paul Sparks, and should be on the back foot a little bit when she's doing scenes with him. But they were great together, like they were really good dance partners and like really responded well to each other, and like it was fun. It was really fun doing scenes with the 2 of those guys.
And it's interesting you said, Paul likes to be directed because sometimes you think like a veteran actor, like they want to be left alone. But actually, the more interviews I do, and I've been on set with people, that's not normally the case. They do a lot of people, because they are good actors, they actually would want a little bit of feedback on like
but it's interesting because like I've worked with an actor who's nothing like that, who I loved working with. Like, so Keith David is an awesome actor and an awesome guy. But like he came in, we did a movie together, and he'd figured it all out beforehand, and he really didn't want you walking up and directing him ever. He's like, I figured it all out. Let me do my thing. And, it's Keith David, he's a great actor. So of course he's giving you all this amazing stuff. So, and we did rehearsal together and stuff like that. He was really awesome and a good scene partner for Catherine Irby, who was his co-star. But there was one moment, where it's like, and it was like kind of a scene that wasn't really in the script. It was like a transitional moment. It was kind of a throwaway moment almost, where he owns a children's bookstore and he's completing a sale, and he's talking to the parents, and it's a children's bookstore. So there's a little kid standing there. And I walk up and I'm like, Keith, something feels off. Can we make an adjustment? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, like it feels like, he's like, what are you talking about? I'm talking to my customers, and I'm like, yeah, but it's a children's bookstore. What if you play the scene to the child instead? He's like, all right. But then he does it in rehearsal. And then he, of course, saw that was a really good idea. And like immediately is improvising a scene, and he's talking to this little kid, and the little kid is amazing because she's like, doesn't know who Keith David is, doesn't care. But when he's talking to her, she's like, in real life, she's like, that's the voice from the TV set. That's the voice from the cartoons. The voice from the cartoons is talking to me, And so we shot this scene, and it was extremely beautiful. And, like Keith was great because like, if you were directing him frivolously, he would tell you to go fuck yourself. But if you had a really good reason and could defend it, then he would be like, all right, let's try it. And then he immediately saw that was a good idea and accepted it. And he had a really good time on that movie. He was a real delight to work with. He got to be romantic in that film. And, Keith was like he's gotten a little tired of playing authority figures and generals standing in front of maps and shit saying, we have 24 hours, gentlemen.
Yeah.
He really wanted to be the lover and the love interest and to be sexy, and I really appreciated it. I loved his enthusiasm for the movie. I loved working with him, and I would love to work with Keith David again, and indeed, Paul Sparks worked with him after Mortuary. It was like, Keith, worked with an old buddy of yours, Jeremiah Kipp. And, Keith, who would never compliment me to my face, because he's like, kind of a boomer. He's got boomer energy, where it's like you don't pay people compliments like to their face. It's like they got to earn it. But then with Paul, he was like, oh yeah, that was beautiful, beautiful experience, wonderful director, beautiful script. Loved doing that film, loved how it turned out. And the writer and I were kind of like, man, why couldn't Keith say that to us?
Right.
He would never, because he would feel embarrassed, I think. But I loved Keith David, and I would love to work with him again. He's a phenomenal actor, and there's the thing of like, don't work with your heroes. What if they're assholes or whatever? It's like, I'm working with Childs from The Thing, and The Thing is like my favorite movie. And I'm like, God, I really don't want Keith David to be an asshole. I want him to be cool. And indeed he was. Like, he was a really cool, lovely guy and really fun to work with, and kind of a dream, really. The thing that people had told me about him was they said, Keith likes to go home. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? It's like, he likes to nail it. He likes to do the performance and be really great and deliver it in a couple takes and then wrap early. And indeed, we wrapped early both days that we worked with Keith David.
Right.
He was so on point. And I think the crew was happy and everybody was happy, and his performance is phenomenal in the movie. And, worked with my hero and would do it again. I absolutely love that guy. Now I just need to work with Kurt Russell, and
Yeah.
I love Kurt Russell. He's the best.
Oh yeah, 100%. Honestly, that whole cast is it's pretty perfect.
Yeah, totally.
This is Jamie Hill from a very polarizing film, Skinamarink. Hello, Jamie.
Skinamarink. All right, yeah, that's a pretty interesting movie, and it makes me think about when later on this year there's another movie coming out called the Back Rooms, which is based on like this sort of, I don't know, it's like a liminal space horror movie where it's like one of those like nothing feels like it's happening and there's a deep lore. And Skinamarink was fascinating. I'm not even sure if I liked the movie, but I was definitely compelled by it, and I've watched it multiple times. It's like the itch that I can't scratch, because I think that what people loved about that film, and it's different than just movies that are telling plots and stories with characters and stuff like that, is like that movie depends on the viewer meeting the movie halfway, like even more than the Blair Witch Project, where like, you're imagining things that are happening around these three characters, these soft characters. Skinamarink, it's like you have to fill in everything, which is like you're filling in the world of the kids and you're filling in the world of whatever the hell force is happening to them and what happened to the parents and all that stuff. And in that sense, I thought it was an extremely, I was like, oh, this is a modern movie. Everything else that we're doing is very antiquated, and this is like kind of up to the minute and really fascinating. Again, I'm not sure I liked Skinamarink. It was one of those things where I kind of felt weirdly at arm's length from it, but I was so oddly compelled. And it's one of those movies where I keep going back to it. Like
I need to go back to it, honestly. So it didn't work for me, and we were talking about it once on the show in kind of a Bill Whedon-esque way on my part. And Jamie Hill was in the chat, and I didn't realize it at the time. And so it turned out, she's from the movie, and she came on the show. It was actually really cool about it, and talked to us about the movie. And
that's very cool.
And it seems like a lot of the people that it really works, because it really works for a lot of people. Actually,
it really works for a lot of people.
Joe, who does our written reviews, is his favorite movie that year. And I think she said too, it comes down to like, if you can remember being a kid, like not just a kid, but like a small child, and what like scared you, and you can kind of get in that mindset, then it really works for you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that makes so much sense. And I still haven't been able to access it in that way. I still feel like at arm's length from the movie, but it does compel me. And it's one where like I have a feeling I'm going to watch it again in 6 months.
Yeah, I need to, and I do appreciate something that's so, like you're saying, a modern movie. I mean, it's completely, you can't really compare it to really anything.
That's
like,
right.
It's very original and I guess brave. I don't know, because like to make something like that, and
like it might be terrible, It's,
yeah.
it's like the thing that's like really interesting about it is like, wow, it's like, is this thing, what the hell is this? But I think that it does, and whether you like it or not, I think the movie does have its own integrity. It's like it does feel very confident in the thing that it's doing. And I also think the movie doesn't really give a fuck if you like it or not.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and if it tried to be like, well, let's make this more like approachable for like a bigger audience, like it would not be anything probably.
Yeah. So I mean, it is kind of a love it or hate it kind of movie. It's you don't really have in between feelings about Skinamarink.
Yeah, definitely. That would not be a movie somebody would be like, oh, it's okay or something.
Yeah. I think it's undeniable. I'll say that. It's an intriguing movie and uniquely itself. And
so I definitely appreciate that about it.
Oh, me too.
And that's why I don't want to be too bad on Iron Lung either, because I do appreciate like somebody trying to do something that they really believe in. And the idea that like a lower budget, although I do think Iron Lung's a bigger budget than people think, that it gets into theaters and people are going to see it. I think that's good.
Yeah, a very interesting movie. And like it is weird. Like it's like, again, it functions more like an art film, and yet it made like millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars and stuff like that. And I'm like, wow, this is a really unique phenomenon, a movie that's like, I mean, if it were not Markiplier, who has like a built-in community from YouTube, I was like, this movie would be a film festival movie that nobody would see. But because it was Markiplier, it was really, I mean, granted, he makes a lot of money doing his YouTube thing and could put the money into this movie, but it was very cool to see a movie that was done on his terms entirely. It's I'm doing this and that's it. And, there's nobody's going to tell me otherwise. And I thought there was like a real strength in that, and that sort of thing can backfire. Like The Room is such a unwatchable movie.
I don't even find it fun. Like people have fun with it. I just think it's like kind of a sad, bad movie.
Right. I feel the same way. Like I just am completely not compelled by it. Like I would put on an Ed Wood movie before watching. But I think that Iron Lung succeeds in
it's a much better
movie. I mean, it actually feels like a movie, and I was curious about that too. I was like, is this thing going to feel like a fan film, or is it going to feel like a movie? And it does feel properly like a film.
Tara here, our new co-host, my new partner on With Your Mortuary Assistant is definitely a movie I won't watch alone. It looks very spooky.
Yep, don't watch it alone. Don't watch it alone. Watch it with someone who will keep you safe.
But it's very interesting, and Tara won't mind me saying, because she's mentioned on the show, she really didn't watch horror movies until she was in her 20s, because she grew up in a Mormon household.
Sounds
like
Wes Craven,
yeah. So it's I find it. So she's watching all this stuff for the first time. She just watched the Universal Monster movies for the first time.
Oh, amazing!
And I actually think that's like, it's kind of cool. Like to be able to experience all this for the first time.
Fresh
You know?
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's wonderful. I would love to be able to see some of these movies for the first time, and of course, I've spent my whole life like loving and watching horror movies. So
Yeah.
like, you can never begin again, but it's like almost like vicariously enjoying a movie with somebody else who's enjoying it for the first time. I would love to have, in an alternate reality, not seen any of these things until I was older.
Yeah.
And then had the chance to experience them. It's like being denied a really delicious food and then tasting it and being like, oh my God, it was always there.
Yeah. So I won't go into the whole story. I was really sick for many years, and I couldn't eat popcorn or lots of things I couldn't eat. And then eventually my doctor's like, oh, you can, that's like old school thinking.
Mm.
You can eat this stuff. So I slowly started to eat some like things I could eat. And the first time I had popcorn, and I would smell it all the time in the theater.
Oh,
I'm like, God, this smells so good. And so the first time I had it again after 5 years, it was really amazing. And corn on
Wow.
the cob after not having it for years was so good. And
Incredible.
nuts.
Do you remember
Yeah.
what movie you saw when you were experiencing popcorn again?
No, I don't. That's a good question. I do remember the first movie we went to see post COVID, but I don't remember the first movie I went to see where I ate popcorn for the first time. Maybe I was probably just thinking about the popcorn. And not the movie.
Fantastic.
But I remember the last movie we went to see right before everything closed down for COVID was King Kong, the original King Kong. They re-released it on one of the Fathom events, and then everything closed. And then the first movie we saw again once things opened was Willy's Wonderland. So,
oh yeah, right. Nicolas Cage versus the animatronic toys.
Yeah, which I really liked, and some people like it too, but a lot of people I know hated it. And then I'm like, did I really like it, or did I just really like it because it was the first time I was back in theaters after years? But either way, I remember enjoying it.
I was kind of here for it with the Nicolas Cage renaissance when he was doing all those weird movies.
I agree.
Mandy is, in some ways kind of an indulgent movie, but like in other ways, it's like an event watching Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, I love Mandy. That might be my favorite Nicolas Cage movie.
Oh, it's a super cool movie, and I love the ending. And Andrea Riseborough is a revelation in that movie. She's extraordinary. But yeah,
I know it doesn't work for everybody because it is very slow for a while, and then it goes insane. But all of it worked for me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely a compelling piece. I wish that director made more movies. Mandy, which was really fascinating, and then he did a really good episode in the Guillermo del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities with Peter Weller in it.
Watch that. I need to watch.
Oh yeah, you should check that one out because if you like Mandy and you want a little bit more of that vibe, it's really cool. And Peter Weller is always really good to watch in anything. I love RoboCop and stuff like that.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, the Cabinet of Curiosities is a kind of uneven show, but that one is
a lot of shows are like that, like the old Masters of Horror. Some of them are very good, and some are whatever.
Yeah, I was revisiting some of the Masters of Horror episodes. I really loved the Joe Dante ones. I loved Homecoming, and then the Screwfly Solution in season 2. And then John Carpenter, of course.
Cigarette Burn's probably the best one for me. Yeah,
super cool.
My guilty pleasure one is the Washingtonians. Like, it's very dumb, but
I should try that again because like the kind of I always kind of pushed against the silliness of it. Be able to really deliver on it, but I wasn't able to. I was like, I can't, but
it's
try it again sometime.
I can't deny it's not dumb, but it's in a way that I enjoy it. I'd probably have to be in the right mood to watch it, I would say.
Totally. But I appreciated what Mick Garris was trying to do. It's like it was really great to see all these really cool filmmakers. Like,
Peltz was good too. I forget who made Peltz, but I think Meatloaf was in it. Peltz,
right? I like seeing Meatloaf in just about anything. He's such an interesting presence.
I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, Masters of Horror is good to revisit. Really. I mean, I think uneven, but like when it works, it's really great, and you're happy that it existed in the first place.
Did you see The Surfer? I don't know if it's a new
I would like to. No, I would like to. It's like Nicolas Cage again, like losing it, right?
Yeah, it's way weirder than I thought from the trailer. It's a very strange movie. And so I didn't really know much about it all, but it was, I think it premiered at Buff or maybe a sneak preview, whatever, at Boston Underground Film Festival. So I went to see it not knowing anything about it.
Oh,
I was like, oh my God, this movie is like, it's so weird. And
perfect way to see that movie.
Yeah. And that's a big thing about why I love festivals. I mean, there's lots of reasons, but
Mhm.
you don't know a lot about the movies when you go to see them,
Of
and
course.
and it's hard to do that for anything today to like because they give away so much in the trailers. And
Right.
then I see if I go to the movies almost every weekend, so I see the trailers like 80 times. I'm like, okay, I've seen this trailer.
Oh, sure. My God.
And so like so if you go into something without really knowing anything about it, like
Mm,
it's a different experience, I think.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, there's so few movies nowadays that you have the opportunity. Like, I mean, the trailers just reveal so much of every movie that it's like a
Yeah.
little disappointing. You almost wish that trailers were a little more abstract. Like, if you see a
Mhm.
weird trailer from back in the 1970s, they don't tell you anything. It's just like
No,
it's like a vibe.
something I mentioned my another thing that scared me is the trailer for Magic, the Anthony Hopkins movie.
Oh, tell me about it. I never saw the
Oh
trailer
my
from that.
god, it's like 30 seconds long, and it's just the mannequin, and it's like,
Oh my God,
"Abracadabra, you take her to bed, magic is fun, you're
that sounds
dead."
great.
And it's, like, super scary and has really not it doesn't tell you anything at all about the movie.
Oh, that's very
It doesn't
cool.
even have Anthony Hopkins or any of the characters in it, it's just the mannequin,
That's
and
great.
I still remember it. I remember being scared of it as a little kid, would come
Oh,
on Channel
incredible.
38.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to go on YouTube and find the
Yeah,
magic.
it's on there. I've played it on the show many times because I feel like I'm like the old uncle that repeats some of my stories, but it's something that's stuck with me is the Magic
Oh,
trailer.
that's great.
See, I really like Mortuary Assistant a lot, and not just because you're here, and not just because I like you, and so I would like people to check this out. And you don't
Yeah,
have to. I like it because I think probably people have played the game from understand it's pretty close, so that's cool. And if you haven't, like myself, you're still going to enjoy it.
yeah, that's my hope. It's like we wanted it to be accessible to both of those people. So yeah, it hits movie theaters on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's
Although
very cool.
although true to form these days, it's also playing on Thursday the 12th, which is the thing that people do
That's another
nowadays.
thing I mentioned. It used to be there was a sneak preview, like one showing, but now they just want to still say it opens Friday, but really it opens Thursday.
Really, it opens Thursday, yeah. And then, like, right now, I think it's scheduled to play for a week, but they may extend it if the ticket sales are really good. And then if you miss it, I mean, like, it's playing in, like, I think a little over 200 theaters across America. Like, I was very happy to hear today the game creator told me it was playing in Mystic, Connecticut, which is
Oh,
10
cool.
minutes from where I grew up when I was a little kid. So I was very happy because some of the folks from back home will be able to go see it in a
Oh,
proper
nice.
theater, which is nice. Uh, but and then it comes to Shudder on March 27th, so everybody else can see it
Mhm.
then. And then, of course, people around the world will be able to see it because it'll be expanding to different territories. The way that the movie was financed, I think I might be telling a tale out of school, but fuck it, here we are. It's like I think they pre-financed it to certain foreign territories and got some of the budget that way. So they pre-sold it to places like I don't, Germany or something like that.
Right.
I'm not sure where, but like, so I know that it's going to other countries as well once it's played on Shudder, which is English speaking territories.
Mhm. And we live in a cool time currently. Is like well, in some ways a terrible time, but for horror movies, like
Oh, yeah.
it like a lot of like interesting, lower budget or modest budget horror movies play theaters that like another genre probably wouldn't. And
Mhm.
sometimes they catch on and they'll play longer. And I think for a lot of friends of mine who make movies, or if you're just a horror fan, that's exciting.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I remember seeing a few of these indie films in the theaters, and that was always a really good experience. Like Late Night with the Devil was one where
Oh
like
yeah, I love that.
I mean, it was a festival favorite, and then it
Yeah.
played in theaters for like a week or two before going to Shudder. And
Mhm.
it just felt like, man, like they're still making so many super cool movies that are like have great characters. And that movie had really surprising gore, like in the third act and stuff like that. It was a really good experience seeing it. And then Night Patrol was a recent one that's coming to Shudder. It
Oh
was
yeah, I saw that. I saw it at the theater.
Yeah, I saw it at the theater too, and it was not a perfect movie, but a
Mhm.
very cool movie for
Yeah,
sure.
it definitely
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So along those, Mary Warnoff came out. I think she came out of retirement for that for late
No
night.
shit.
No, not late. I was thinking a different devil movie, House of the Devil.
Oh,
But
House
late
of
night
the
of the,
Devil, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, Mary
yeah,
Warner from House of the Devil, which was
yeah,
very cool. Like, that was a very cool cast. It was like Tom Noonan and Mary Warnoff, and I think Dee
yeah,
Wallace was in it for a
yeah.
second.
Like an awesome cast, really.
Awesome cast.
Yeah. And but Late Night of the Devil, yeah, that was another really cool, weird movie that kind of came out of nowhere.
Oh
And,
yeah,
it
truly.
really that caught on. So that was a
I
really
was
fun
very
movie to
happy when
watch.
that one caught
Yeah,
on. It caught on because it was good.
yeah, yeah,
People liked it.
unique and it's good.
Good
And
movie. Yeah.
there's so much like 80s nostalgia, and
Mm.
most of it is like here's a Rubik's cube and here's all this colorful stuff. But that was like to me that really captured more of an 80s style to me.
Very much, yeah. Like it brought back a lot of memories for me of like staying up late and like watching some of these shows. It was pretty wild. And I thought David Dastmalchian was great. I'd love to
Yeah,
see.
that kind of like I didn't really know him until then, and then like it kind of that, and
Yeah,
then what was
he's
he,
one
the
of the,
Polka Dot Man and the he was Polka Dot Man, right? In
yeah, he
the
was. He's like a classic that guy. Where you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, he was in all these other things.
Yeah,
Pretty wild.
yeah, I'm a big fan of, and he seems like a weird guy, which I appreciate. So,
I know. Yeah, he brings that element of weirdness into the movies that he does, which is
yeah.
very exciting. I'm like happy that he's having his flowers and stuff like that. He's a wonderful actor.
So I've like some cool theaters in the Boston area, the Coolidge and Brattle, that shows like an art house stuff. But I do have to say there's a big AMC, and I know it's the chain theater, but it shows a lot of weird indie horror movies, and I
Which is
appreciate
great.
that.
No, AMC is terrific. I mean, that is where I saw Night Patrol and
Yeah, that's where I
Night
saw
Night
it.
with the Devil. So I think it's really great that you can always find those movies. Like if you're looking for them, you can find them, which is great.
Yeah, and mine in Boston every Saturday, a shadow cast of Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh yeah,
It's like super
spectacular.
fun. It's like a lot of the same people come every week, and it grows. There's
And
like
it's
a
the
million people
anniversary
in
of
every.
Rocky Horror too, right?
Yeah, so I think that's why it was doing so good last year,
Beautiful.
probably because it was like the 50th anniversary. I think
Yeah, 50th, I think.
it's as old as me.
Oh my
No, I'm
gosh.
50 this year, so it's 1 year older than me, I guess.
Spectacular. Congratulations, we made it.
So, you mentioned this a little earlier because I did know. I don't want to spoil the movie at all, but it does. When after I watch, I was like, there could be more to this at some point. Is it too early to like think of a possible sequel at some point?
I don't think it's too early to think about it. Like Brian and I have certainly talked about it. It's like something that we would like to do, and we have, we talked about ideas of like things we're doing. And Brian, I guess I'm not telling tales out of school to say that he's developing something right now that is a proper sequel or prequel or whatever. I don't want to say which direction we're going in, but it's a possibility. But it really depends on the audience. If the audience likes our film and responds to it, and if Shudder and Epic feel like it merits another version, then we'd be happy to do it. I do know that like Brian's in the middle of developing a game based on Paranormal Activity, but once he finishes that for Paramount, I know that he wants to do another more in the game world of Mortuary Assistant.
Cool. Yeah.
And we have talked about like whether there would be some crossover in a possible second film or that game or whatever, and it's definitely all on the table. But like Brian, we also agreed that we wouldn't want to do something if neither of us were compelled by the story. But Brian did cook something up. Then he's like, hey, tell me what you think of this. And if you like it, then maybe we can go down that road. And again, this is before any executives have seen it or anything, but like we both have caught hold of something that we're both really excited about. And like, we feel like that's a story that we would like to tell. But again, we're in the very early stages and it hasn't, the movie hasn't come out yet. So we have to see how it performs and if audiences respond to it. And then we have to see if the executives like our weird idea. It's like there's a lot of steps to go through before we could really say anything. But like the thing I really loved about Mortuary Assistant and Iron Lung and some of these other indie horror games that are being made into movies is that some of these things are so cool and so weird that you're like, this stuff would never get made into a movie if it were not like a popular IP as a video game. Mortuary Assistant, if you went and pitched it, people would be like, too dark, too weird, too strange. Dead people are gross, whatever. I mean, it's like you just, you'd run into a lot of problems. Iron Lung, even more. It's like it's about one guy in a submarine in an ocean of blood taking photos of shit that you can't quite tell.
Right.
It's like Yeah, I'm sure Hollywood is like jumping all over themselves to make that movie, right? And yeah, you know, it's like the success of Iron Lung and Mortuary Assistant as games is undeniable. And then watching Iron Lung break the box office was also very satisfying. Even though there were reasons for that, it was still kind of cool to be like, oh, we live in a world where, you know, a low budget movie based on an indie horror game can have that much success in the same year as you know, another sequel to Silent Hill, you know, kind of flops, right? And you know, Silent Hill, it's interesting because like those are such interesting games. And the movies always fuck it up because like those games are more like David Lynch movies. Like they're way more obscure and weird and not rational. And you know, when they turn them into films, they're like, all right, well, we need to beef up the story, and, you know, and like we need to explain this, you know, whatever. And it kind of fucks up the mechanism of those games. I do wonder if those games are filmable, first of all, but then second, it's like, have you played those games? Those games are absolutely bizarre, you know, like there's no plot. It's just mood and atmosphere. It's closer to like some fucking Nicholas Winding Refn movie or something like that, you know. So yeah, when that movie came out and it was clearly made by committee, even though I think the director really cares about the franchise, you know, I was like, yeah, you know, it's like I don't think audiences want that. I think they want. I mean, whether they're like Mortuary Assistant or not, like the games that are being made into films right now that people are responding to, it feels more like personal filmmaking. And then Exit 8 is coming later this year, and like that trailer looked off the hook. You know,
I think I've seen that. I'm gonna write this down and watch it after.
The game is super cool. Yeah, the trailer is really good. You know, it's like a foreign film, right? And you know, like the reviews from film festivals have been amazing. Like people say, like, "Wow, it's a really good movie." Like people, like film critics I know, I was like, "Oh, you saw Exit 8?" They're like, "Oh, it's very good. It's very good. You will like it." So I think that, you know, I'm happy to be living in a world where those kind of games can be made into those kinds of films. And you know, the more the merrier, I say. You know, if people like or don't like the Mortuary Assistant, I don't think that turns the tide of like the fact that we're living in an interesting time where these cool, quirky, strange, eccentric games can be made into unique, singular movies.
Yeah, it makes me actually want to get into some of these games, to be honest,
They're cool.
because I haven't really been a gamer for a long time.
Likewise,
And my brother, who's older, 9 years older, but he loves all these weird horror. A lot of times he'll have them on the top list of his favorite things of the year.
They're so good. I mean, you know, they kind of are like, you know, I was like, man, indie horror games are where it's at. It's like the cutting edge of like interesting, weird, cool ideas. Which is not to say there aren't a lot of weird, cool, interesting indie horror films being made. I mean, we just talked about the Addams Family. That's what they do, you know. But it was really special. John actually was very cute about the Mortuary Assistant because he didn't know the game at all. And
yeah, he does. I assume they're not big gamers.
No, and you know, he was like, "This thing, the Mortuary Assistant, I want to make a movie with Jeremiah. That sounds fun." And then, like when the trailer blew up, he was like, "Jeremiah, did you know this was going to happen?" I was like, "Well, you can never know, John." He's like, "Yeah, but like it's this game that's famous." Yeah, I'm like, "Yeah, I told you it was like I told you it was a hit, you know." And he's like, "People fucking like Zelda's, you know, friends come up to John like, you're Rebecca's dad." And he's like, "It makes me feel kind of good." You know? I love John so much.
Yeah, I've never met Lulu. I've never met any of them in person, but I've had the Zelda and Toby and John on the show a lot of times.
Wonderful.
So yeah, they're and John brought up the movie last time he was on, just a couple weeks
that makes me happy to hear.
It was fun. I had shared the trailer, not realizing he was even in it or that you had made it, because then I remember you replied like, "Thanks." I was like, "Wait a minute, this is."
Yeah, I was very happy that John's in the trailer. Like in the trailer that we cut for Toronto International Film Festival in Cannes, he was in it even a little bit more. But no, I was so happy to work with John. He's such a compelling actor and such an interesting guy. I would love to work with him again, absolutely, anytime. And then, you know, it's kind of like the thing. I'd like to work with Kurt Russell. It's like I would also like to work with Toby and Zelda. Yeah. They're all really great actors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mentioned earlier about like, I remember those. Actually, it was a different interview I did. I'm sorry, but the idea of another thing I like about the Addams Family is for people out there who want to make their own movie, maybe you haven't made anything yet or have a lot of money, is they always write stuff like with stuff that's around them and that they have access to. And I it seems kind of like common sense in some way, but I know a lot of people don't use it. So like, don't write a movie about a castle if you don't have a castle.
Oh, very much so.
But if you have access to the woods or whatever it is, wherever you are, you probably have something or you have a relative who has something that you could use. Maybe think about that. And like, oh, well, maybe I'll write this movie around this idea.
Yeah, and it feels very much like, that's been true as long as like indie films have existed, like Sam Raimi with Evil Dead 1 and
right. Yeah, you have a cabin. So
like they write a script that's like, all right, a couple houses and a bar, that's what we're doing. Blood Simple. It's like cabin with this car that we own and a couple of our friends. Boom, done. So yeah, and the Addams Family are masterful at it. Like it's almost like they tool around and like find all sorts of amazing locations in the Catskills, and it's like, all right, we're writing that into the movie. that creepy old tree. But John,
and that's like, and that's great, like production value, because you can't just go, let's go make this creepy ass tree. Like you just, it's got to be there.
That's right. And when I saw a screening of Mother of Flies, they were talking about it afterwards, and it was really cool because they had different titles in mind, and then one day they were walking along and saw like an animal covered in flies. So it's like, oh, let's shoot a scene by this dead animal, and the flies were getting all over everything, and they were getting all over Toby. And then, I think that's when they were like, oh, these flies, let's just embrace it. They're everywhere.
That was really off-putting watching the movie, and you can hear the flies. So I think makes it like,
the flies are like landing on Toby. You're just like, oh God, it's unbearable. It's so creepy.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of. I know sometimes it gets on my nerves if someone on wherever social media like, oh, there's no good all they do is remake everything and make sequels. I'm like, there's all kinds of cool movies out there. You just go and Mortuary Assistant's coming out. I see all kinds of cool stuff at festivals. I even see like some cool like fairly big horror movies that come out at the theater.
Totally. Oh no, it's like great, and even 28 years later, like even if those 28 years later movies are not your cup of tea, because I know that not everybody likes them, and I have mixed feelings about them too.
I'm
but
not
like,
a big fan, but yeah.
Yeah, but I still thought like, what, even if they're not really my thing, I was still kind of intrigued by the fact that they're not doing.
Yeah, I mean, this last one, they took a lot of chances in this last one that didn't really work for me, but it's freaking weird.
It missed for me. Like all the stuff with the Jimmys like didn't do it for me.
Agree.
But at the same time, I was like watching it going like, what? Yeah, not for me, but spectacular that they're setting a movie in a zombie universe that doesn't feel like any other zombie.
They're not remaking a Romero movie.
That's right, which is very cool.
Yeah.
They're not doing Walking Dead and they're not doing The Last of Us. They're doing their own thing. And their own thing does not work for me either. But like, but I am refreshed by the fact that they're at least like going for something that's not the standard bill of fare.
I agree. And I'll definitely see the third one. Hopefully they make it.
I like,
but
even when I don't like Danny Boyle movies or Alex Garland movies or Nia DaCosta movies, they're still like really interesting filmmakers.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I do like to. I try to use that term more often, though it doesn't work for me because.
Yeah, it's well said.
Yeah.
Bill Wheaton would never say that. He would just say,
no. It's like I hate it. So, Mortuary Assistant, and where can people go? I guess people know nowadays, but where can people go to like see where the movie's playing if it's playing in there?
Yeah, Fandango is where where my employers tell me I should direct people, but also you can go to AMC's website and type in that's more the way I've been doing it. It's like type in Mortuary Assistant and then you'll find the AMC theaters near you. But those are the two ways that are like most accessible for finding Mortuary Assistant. And like I said, it is playing in like almost every state in America, and most of the major cities, so you can at least find it like in some places, but yeah, like Friday the 13th is our official day that we're
that worked out very well.
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. And then if you wind up being in a place where it's playing hundreds of miles away from you or whatever, then just trust the process and know that it will eventually be on Shudder or like, knock on wood, if it does spectacularly well this week, then they would expand it to more theaters.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's having seen how it went down with like Night Patrol and Late Night with the Devil with their theatrical releases, like, I'm not trying to be falsely humble or modest or not counting my chickens or whatever. It's like right now they've got it for a week, and I suspect that will be the lifespan of Mortuary Assistant before Shudder. But you never know. I mean, if the gaming community comes out in droves and they feel like they can milk that cow for another week, then they will certainly do it. But all right. So this Swift of Horror 365. Can't wait to see the Mortuary Assistant. I've never played the video game either. Don't worry about it.
Definitely.
We made it for everybody, and we really cared about that. Like I don't know if our screenwriter Tracy Beebe was on here earlier.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she must have done like a playthrough of the game, and I know she talked to Brian a lot and stuff like that. So I know that she did play the game, but it was like, Tracy also is not, I don't think she's a gamer. And I don't look at that as a weakness in the storytelling. I actually thought that like the marriage of some of the collaborators not being gamers with people like Brian Clark who really understand the mechanism of the games, I thought that was like really good.
Yeah, because I think it's probably people understand the two different worlds.
Exactly. Like Tracy cared a lot about making it accessible to everyone. And I think that was a real strength in her writing, was that she wasn't excluding anybody. She was like, all right, let's write to the story and let's write to the character and stuff like that. So like I think that she played the game and definitely talked to Brian a lot about the things that were most important to him. And that was a really great collaboration between the two of them. But the Tracy not being as much of a gamer was actually a really good thing, and it reminds me a little bit of like, when they did 28 Days Later, like 20 years ago, like Alex Garland's a huge zombie fan, and Danny Boyle hadn't really seen the George Romero movies. And it weirdly gave the film an interesting tension, where it's like, okay, that's probably a good marriage. But in the case of ours, we had enough people who cared about the game and enough people who were like, it has to work independently of the game, that we could, we could make a movie for both categories of people. So yeah, don't worry about having played the game or not played the game. I would say that if you're seeing Iron Lung, if you haven't played the game, you're going to have a tougher time.
Yeah.
But for our movie, it's like way more accessible because we're working on, it's structured very much. The game is structured very much like a horror movie, so we can play in that arena, of like making a satisfying movie experience as well.
Yeah. And how important is Shudder for independent filmmakers? It was cool because I remember when Shudder first started, and it was just like a neat idea, but it's really become like, I think it brings a lot of people in for Joe Bob, but then they've got all kinds of classic and weird movies, and then like a lot of like favorites from festivals now, and so and I think that's cool because it exposes, I think, some people who are maybe there to see Joe Bob into like some modern into independent horror films that they might not see otherwise.
Shudder. I mean, I liked their programming before, like Slapface played on Shudder. Like I thought there were a lot of like extremely cool movies that they were putting out there, and as the years have gone on, just their catalog has just continued to expand, and they keep doing interesting stuff. And the thing I've always liked about them is that they respect a lot of different subgenres. So if you want to go in and see a slasher where somebody's getting creatively killed every 10 minutes, like you can find that on Shudder. And if you want to find a like bleak, slow, character-driven piece, you can find that on Shudder. And if you want to find a crazy-ass Argentinian movie that is flat out terrifying, called Terrified,
I love Terrified. And then what was his follow-up movie? I thought that was
Where Evil Dwells.
Yeah,
also very good.
When Evil. So anyway, that was my favorite movie of the year. That was
like amazing. Terrified is like it scared the shit out of me, and it's like a really great movie. And then, God, I wish I could remember the name of his second film.
When Evil Lurks.
When Evil Lurks, yeah. Where Evil Lurks.
Either where or when.
It's a very good film. It's a good story. It's also very creepy. He really gets under your skin. I think he's
and he doesn't mind killing kids in his movie. Also,
no, he'll kill everybody in his movie.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Nobody is safe, including children. No, but it was like one of the creepiest scenes in
When Evil Lurks.
Terrified, when the kid is sitting at the table
Yeah.
And you're just like, Jesus, I don't know. How dark is this going to get? And I think it's wildly imaginative storytelling. I think that guy is a great filmmaker.
Yeah, we had him on the podcast, and like he completely downplayed, like I'm like, you're like a modern master horror, and he's like, oh no one really cares about like, and I'm like, no, I think
That is very modest of him. I
Yeah,
think he's one of the best
super
there is,
modest.
honestly.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I don't really know how to pronounce his name, and he doesn't really correct people.
Yeah, Demian Rugna.
Yeah, Demian Rugna, but then like people have said it to him. He's like, "Is that pronounced right?" He's like, close enough." And I'm like, "Man, can't you correct him?" It's like I want to know how to spell your name. I want to say your name and not
Yeah,
feel
exactly.
like I'm doing it. But he's like, "Man, don't worry about it. It's fine. Close enough."
When Evil Lurks was another one that was playing at AMC, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but
nice.
I'll go see it. And I was like, holy shit, this is like super dark. And it was
Super
before there was
dark.
any buzz about it. I was like, which I was really happy that I went in like completely blind. So.
Oh yeah, and it's great to see like really smart, excellent movies with great gore that are also like willing to go that dark.
Yeah.
And some American films go dark, but like this Argentinian filmmaker, it's like next level dark.
Yeah, it's
really
like
cool.
Terrifier obviously is like dark but I like Terrifier movies, but I wouldn't call them like these brilliant movies or something. You know what I mean? Yeah,
slasher movies with very creative kills.
yeah.
And with Terrified, it just gets under my skin in a
Yeah.
way that is like just completely unnerving, and also like gets supremely gory at times. In ways that are really creative. Really great.
Back to Shudder. That's kind of like because I'm someone who likes all those different kinds of movies.
Yeah.
It really depends what I'm into, what mood I'm in. Because I love the stuff and stuff I grew up with, Basket Case, and
Larry Cohen, fantastic. Yeah.
And then like sometimes I want to see something more thought provoking or whatever. It just really depends what I feel like. So
for sure. Oh yeah, I wish Frank Henenlotter was making more movies. Basket Case is such an interesting grindhouse.
One of my favorite movies, honestly.
Yeah.
No, I always tell people like Taxi Driver and Basket Case are two of my favorite movies, and like I realized one
more
is
similar than you might think. Honestly,
yeah. Well, I love that era of gritty New York movies. I think there's something special about them.
Yeah, it's a time capsule of a certain place, and it's almost like if you had a time machine and could go back and see a certain movie in a certain setting, you might say like, oh, I'd love to see Psycho 1960 before the audience knew the twist. That would be interesting. But what I'd really honestly love to do is go see Basket Case in a Times Square shitty, sleazy grindhouse movie theater and like take in the full experience of the Frank Henenlotter movie. I think he's a really underrated.
I agree. I love. I've tried to get him on. He's nice. He responds to me, but he doesn't like. He says he doesn't like to talk about his own movies.
Wow, that's a shame. And then he had a special effects artist named Gabe Verdados or whatever his name. I can't remember, but he would do interviews. But I'm not sure what he's been up to lately. So he was almost like the way to get to Frank was him, but like or not. He would talk about Basket Case or whatever. But I don't know. It's a shame because I think Frank is a pretty unique New York character, and like I'm sure he would have a lot to say. It's a shame that he doesn't want to talk about his work.
Yeah,
because like Bill Lustig, you can't get him to shut up. And
I've had Bill on many times, and I love Bill Lustig. And
I mean, Maniac Cop is like terrific. I mean that movie has Tom Atkins and Bruce Campbell. How does it get any better than that?
Yeah, the sequel might be the best one of the franchise, Part 2.
Maniac Cop 2 definitely has the best production value. Is that the one where the prison riot happens at the end?
Yeah. And then the third one's just kind of like whacked out of its mind. But
and the third one, I mean, it's not his fault.
No.
Realistic. Like a lot of shit was going on when they were
Maniac
Cop 3 that made that movie unsuccessful. But I mean, we still have Maniac Cop 1 and Maniac Cop 2 is like
they're all and Maniac I love. So I love but Henenlotter, I don't know, it's the Basket Case movies are so good. What's
Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker's awesome, and what's the Brain one?
Brain Damage or
Brain Damage. I think it's Brain Damage.
Yeah, pretty wild.
I'm a huge fan. And Basket Case, I don't know. Plus, that Basket Case has stop motion in it too, and
That's
I'm a
right.
big
I
fan
always
of
forget
stop
about
motion.
that. I always
It's
think about practical effects in that movie, but like, yeah, the stop motion. That's right. I always forget. And it was really of that time, like Evil Dead 1 has some stop motion there where you're kind of like, wow, all right, we're doing this. Yeah, but Basket Case definitely like lays into that stuff too.
Yeah, I don't know if it works, like if you didn't grow up with it or something. Either of those movies, the stop motion in them,
It
but
is
they
the
work
stop.
for me because I absolutely love the stop motion. So.
Oh yeah, and it just reminds you of all the great stop motion that in the history of horror films. Like so much of it. I mean, it does feel like old technology, but it also feels handmade in a way that makes it
Yeah,
feel special.
I mean, the skeleton scene from Jason the Argonaut's still like one of my favorite scenes. So.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's a really cool scene. I mean,
Yeah.
just what's going on in that scene is super cool, without a doubt. Yeah.
See that. Where can people follow you to see what you're up to if you would like them to?
Oh, sure. I mean, no, I'm very accessible. So, like, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram. And there's only one Jeremiah Kipp. If you type in my name, it will lead you straight to me. It's funny because what's that website where you review movies and people type up reviews of them and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Not
Rotten Tomatoes or the other one.
Yeah, what's it called? There's a
my friends always tell me my festival friends said I always say I should get on there, and Letterboxd. I always start the year like doing it, then I just forget. But I know I should.
Well, I'm the same. It's like when we were promoting Mortuary Assistant, the PR team were like, "Are you on Letterboxd?" And I'm like, "Nah, not really." And they're like, "You should be." It's like, "Why aren't you on Letterboxd?" Like that's the way you connect with the fans and the people. And I'm like, I'm sure you're right. It's like I mean, I know a lot of people who use it and have access to community that way, but I just haven't. It's like I was like, man, it's like it seems like a lot of work to be on there, like reviewing movies and rating them, and you have to write these essays and all this other stuff. And I don't know, I should be on Letterboxd because I'm a cinephile and I love movies.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about them and writing about them and watching them and stuff like that. But maybe it is like just like a generational thing where I'm like, oh god, that just sounds like a lot of work, and I'm already on
Yeah, I agree. I mean, most of my friends at festivals really recommend it, and they said it's also good for the especially indie movies.
Yeah,
and they always recommend to put your independent movie on there. So.
For sure. No, it's it's one of those things where it's like as they're telling me about it, it's like, yeah, I really ought to do more of that, and I just haven't, but no, Instagram and Facebook are the two that I use right now.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie with an audience yet?
No, I haven't seen Mortuary Assistant with an audience yet. No, but I'm going to. Yeah, in New York, I'm going to go on Friday the 13th. I'm going to go to the screening then, and then I'm also going to go on the following Sunday. So we've been talking. Oh yeah, Brian Clark, the game creator, is going to go on Friday the 13th as well.
Cool.
So the two of us will introduce the film, and I don't think we're doing a Q&A afterwards. I'm not sure what they're doing at the theater, but if they want us to, we will. I'm in NYC, so pretty easy, accessible finding a theater to see this. Yeah, in Times Square, Empire 25 is the theater that they're showing it in. So it's a very centrally located movie theater and very easy to find. And it's playing a bunch of places up in Boston. That's where so like I said, it's playing in Mystic, Connecticut. That's like 10 minutes from where I grew up. But like my family decided they were going to make a trip to Boston and go see it up there.
Is that where Mystic Pizza is from?
It's where Mystic Pizza is from.
Yeah, indeed. I thought it was.
Yes, indeed. But it's playing, all around the country. So like, and in most major cities. So like people can get access to it.
Yeah. Cool. Well, go out and see it. People really should support independent horror films. Plus, if you're a horror fan, if you're watching, you're probably a horror fan. So you'll have a good time too.
Yeah, good times. Good times in the movie theater.
Yeah.
So come out and support the Mortuary Assistant, and if you're unable to find a theater near you, you can catch it on Shudder later. And while you're on Shudder, you can just like check through their catalog. They have tons of super cool movies in their back catalog.
Yeah. And a cheap plug that my first thing I've ever been attached to that will be on Shudder will be on there on April, The Solvent. So I'm very excited.
Oh, brilliant. I can't wait.
All right. Well, this is great. I always love talking with you, Jeremiah.
Likewise, Neil. It's so much fun. No, it's always great to talk to a fellow movie enthusiast, and I always love being on the show. So thanks for inviting me, and thanks for having Bill Whedon on. It's always a joy to see him and Dolores.
Yeah, Bill's great. Yeah, next time you'll meet Tara, I'll make sure she's here. So,
That would be great.
all right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon, Neil. Thanks for the show.
Yeah, and congratulations on the movie.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Mortuary Assistant. All right. Bye, everybody.
Take care.